It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call. That's 603-283-6160. You can call in with whatever's on your mind, but tonight we do have a guest and a topic for a while. So I think if you call in, it should be about that until we don't have our guest anymore. With you on Free Talk Live, you've got me, Bonnie, and in studio we have
Lori.
And then we have remotely, if you want to introduce your name.
Hey, yeah, I'm Ben Weir. Yeah, that's who I am.
Ben is running for LPNH chair, which is like, there isn't a president position, is there?
No, this is basically the chair. It's just a board, so they act kind of as like the not CEO, but kind of like CEO that delegates to the rest of the board, and it's basically the same thing.
So if people don't know what I'm talking about when I say LPNH, I'm a little bit in a bubble. It's the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. And most of our listeners know what the Libertarian Party is. And most of our listeners know that we do the show from here in Keene, New Hampshire. But I think that this is a more important thing than just what its surface level looks like. And just in the little conversation before the show and reading Ben's document he sent out with his 2-year plan, I think he agrees. And I think it's a big deal for a much different reason than a bunch of the leftists in New Hampshire currently think it's a big deal. So apparently it's going to be like the biggest convention ever. And I don't think that's just stupid Robert's Rules arguments. I think it's going to be a big deal to everybody that shows up. Everybody that shows up wants some kind of change. And why is that? Well, we've talked to Jeremy Kaufman like 3 or 4 times on this show, and he's a really good guest to have on. He is super controversial on the internet, and most of the leftists just hate him enough that they want change, as in him and people like him and his friends to not be in charge. And then on the flip side, people who are not leftists, so I guess more right-wing leaning, I really just don't consider myself either one, but I kind of think that if I had to choose one, that I'd be more right-wing leaning. And the thing is, those people, it's not like Jeremy Kaufman will still be in charge. They just don't want to give away the power to the leftists. So that's kind of this dichotomy we have going on. And it's not that Jeremy is running for vice chair or chair. In fact, I think he's running for at-large.
Yeah.
But those are just kind of the two sides to make it really a quick, easy explanation.
Mm-hmm. And why do they not like Jeremy Kaufman?
Well, because Jeremy Kaufman posts all these controversial things. Some say Fed posting. Not that I think he's a Fed, but some say Fed posting.
So I was actually talking about this the other night, and I was like, what if this is all just his experiment in showing people free speech absolutism? You know,
probably pretty close to that.
Yeah, like you can say anything, and you should be able to say anything without, unless there's actual tangible damage being done to somebody, then you should be able to say anything you want.
What is your opinion of the mean tweets, Ben?
Well, I do think that there's an aspect there of moving the Overton window in a certain direction, if you believe in the Overton window. But I would say that overall, there's a lot of Libertarian Party affiliates that get stuck essentially just promoting a brand, not necessarily promoting the ideas of liberty or what libertarianism looks like in practice or in real life. And I'm not going to even say that a lot of the controversial stuff necessarily has been representing libertarian values. However, I think that there is power in speaking the truth, even when it's hard for people to hear. And, I do think that there's an aspect there of, there's a bunch of people that want to cancel everyone else for their words. And obviously libertarians stand for free speech absolutism, certainly. And, that's something that I advocate for. And truthfully, he's not the only person that tweets on that account either, by the way. Maybe you know, on his personal page he does some stuff, but you know, on the actual LPNH page there's a bunch of members, and they will not be disclosed. But at the same time, you know, I think that when it comes to all this stuff, there is a side to it of, for a long time, the Libertarian Party was ran by extreme leftists. And, you know, we're here, you know, we've maybe swung that pendulum as far in the opposite direction as possible. You know, and there's also an aspect here is we're the second biggest Libertarian Party account that exists, basically. So,
second,
you know, we have the ability to almost like create the narrative and create the definition of what Libertarian Party looks like now, which I think is why everyone knows that this convention is important. You know, if you want it to stay looking one way, or if you want it to go back to the old way, it's really just like a two clashing heads there.
So why? I mean, who is the number one biggest account? I thought it was
the actual National Libertarian Party would be the number one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important, everything that you said, because the thing is, some people have been so confused about why I'm on the quote unquote side that I'm on right now, because I've never liked a lot of the weird things that LPNH will tweet. And maybe sometimes I was just getting kind of triggered, but it's just that some of those things are just opinions, and they're not necessarily libertarian, not even saying they're anti-libertarian. It's just almost like, why post this? And so I've gotten annoyed with them before, and I just basically decided like to unfollow them and not let it affect me, even though it literally affects me in a way that whenever I'm like talking to anyone, somebody will say, oh, you're a libertarian in New Hampshire, you're one of those racist people. So I mean, like, it literally is changing people's like ideas of things. But I genuinely think it's so much less libertarian, it's so much worse if our party was saying things about, like, say it's the next coronavirus thing, say it's the next pandemic, if the Libertarian Party was posting things from the account that were like, you need to wear your mask because otherwise it's a NAP violation. There really were people saying that when
we're literally only a couple years away from that actually was happening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
and that's so many times worse. First of all, the reason I moved here was because I was in San Antonio and it was lockdown crazy. You have to walk past a cop and show you're wearing a mask to go into Walmart. And I found Free Talk Live, and I was like, there are people up there like not doing this. Like, I want to live regular life again. If that was our outreach, you know, like the guy named Dennis or whatever his name was that used to run LPNH tweeting about you better wear your mask or I'll shoot you or whatever the heck he said. He literally threatened people's lives and said that it was because it was self-defense because you have germs. But maybe he didn't do that from the Twitter account, but he did say that, and he was in control of the Twitter account at times. Anyways, if I had seen that and that was like the only introduction, like I would have never considered moving here. But to that point, I am way more aligned with like the Free State movement than LPNH. Yeah. I was a member. I joined 2022. Me and Ian joined to go to the convention, kind of like, I don't know, for entertainment. Maybe it's because like we were just like newly together and he just wanted to go introduce me to people or something. We were like really distant from all that drama, and I think it was 2022. So I went for like no reason and let my membership lapse. I only joined to go there and vote for you because if people don't know, it's just Ben running for chair versus a person named Spencer running for chair, which actually I'll even plug it. You can go to the Free Talk Cast episode that they were on. I couldn't listen to the whole thing because it was
very identity politic based.
Yeah.
Which I'm anti all of that.
Yes.
Very hard.
And then
identity politics has like ingrained itself so deeply in one side of the Libertarian Party. And breaking away from that is so important. Like the Mises Caucus took over a couple of years ago of most of the state affiliates, and certainly LPNH is part of that. And Mises Caucus doesn't exist in New Hampshire anymore. I have my own opinions about them. You know, in general, I've still got some friends over there, but for the most part, you know, they're an irrelevant part of the conversation these days. But I will say that the good that came out of it was that the party basically got taken over by Ron Paul libertarians, people who were part of the Ron Paul revolution that, definitely would be considered more on the right wing side, that reject identity politics, and they reject all of that nonsense that the party had been spewing for so long. Like I went to some Joe Jorgensen events back when she was campaigning for president in 2020, and I was embarrassed to show up there and see that most of the people there were wearing masks. I was like, these are libertarians, like outside in a park, wearing masks. I was not, but it was certainly embarrassing to be in that crowd, and it made me completely change my opinion of her. Up to that point, I had only known her from essentially social media and what I had heard at conventions. But
my opinion was changed of her from listening to Free Talk Live that year, and Ian, I think Aria or something, they were interviewing her, and they asked her what's the most important thing that you're running on this year. It had nothing to do with coronavirus or anything. It was just some milquetoast like unity, something like that, like just as bad as
feelings.
Something vague. She was so bad
on that. Like the Mises Caucus taking over and switching things to more right wing. Like in Reno, they came out and the party was very right wing. They recruited a lot, and that those numbers fell off a little bit over the last few years. So then we hit 2024, and we go into a convention where we have Michael Rechtenwald, who, like, I will say, like, he's not a perfect candidate, but he was decent. We didn't have any great candidates, but then we ended up with Chase Oliver, who is completely focused on identity politics. So, I was one of the NOTA 300 who went to the DC convention and voted for none of the above instead of Chase Oliver to be their candidate. It would have been better to run nobody and have a strong messaging campaign of some sort than to have somebody who basically went out and did a 50-state pride tour, essentially.
So my big problem with the identity politics thing and why I'm so vehemently against it is because it's not because they want to believe whatever they want to believe. It's that they want to coerce people to be compelled to do so also. And that's my problem with it. That shit is...
I gotta dump it. Sorry.
Dump me.
Yep. My bad.
So that is...
I just took a second to get to it.
That is about as anti-libertarian as you can get.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. And, I think when it came to, our recent, and honestly, like, I didn't hate Gary Johnson. He wasn't my choice then either. Like, I actually preferred John McAfee.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to win that one too. I was just becoming a libertarian. I wanted it to be McAfee, and then it was Johnson, and I thought about voting for him, but then I got scared that it was like some kind of purposeful rug pull so we'd have Hillary Clinton, and I came from the right, so I was just like, no, the Muslims are going to take over. I just have to vote for Trump, as if he wasn't going to win Utah where I lived at the time. So I kind of wish I voted like a, protest vote for Johnson. He wasn't bad, like you said.
He's not terrible. Like, it was more like people had more of a problem with his running mate than anything.
Yeah.
But it's so wild to see that the Libertarian Party just 8 years ago basically had these two candidates who were prior. They were elected before as Republicans. They came over to the Libertarian Party, and they're, for the most part, successful in their candidate. If their goal was to just get like 4% and all this stuff, like they hit some pretty good marks there. But then 8 years later, now we're here, and we have a terrible presidential candidate. But the Libertarian Party as a whole started doing more like kind of coalitioning and breaking those borders between the parties and like essentially working together to try to, get more important and way more relevant things done, like getting Ross Ulbricht freed.
Yeah.
And the left libertarians that voted for Johnson at the time, now they're all reading that the party is being pragmatic with Republicans, when literally 8 years ago they elected Republicans as libertarian candidates.
So, yeah, exactly. What you're saying is another huge thing I wanted to bring up. It really annoys me, and it's like it's kind of almost an identity politics thing, because people put their identities into being in these parties. There are people, genuinely, firsthand knowledge, there are people out there who would rather a libertarian, lowercase l, not win a seat in their district because they ran under the name Republican.
It's insane.
It's insane. I mean, I don't think those people really are anywhere near the same thing as me. I don't think those people are actually libertarians, literally.
That's shooting yourself in the foot.
Yes.
Literally, for no reason.
Well, because, like he said, they're reading about the word Republican.
Right, but that's literally not a reason, though.
It's not a good reason.
It's not a good reason.
No, it's really bad. And it's like really threatening to me personally. That's like the biggest thing that made me want to get involved in any of this at all. That if we have a fully democratic House, and I can get into why that might happen if this side loses, we will just get steamrolled into more and more tyranny. Like, they could pass gun laws. How stupid can people be? I seriously, it makes me wonder if people are feds, and I don't even normally talk about that, like call everybody fed, but today I am. I just can't see a worse idea. And I read your 2-year plan. It's not like we're like going to read it on the air or anything, but I like that you talk about if we're going to run a Libertarian Party candidate, it would be against a bad Republican. I mean, then you have like so much power. You have like the ability to like kind of run against people, and then if they seem like they're going to win or seem like you're going to be a spoiler is what I meant to say, then you know that you can kind of convince them to like act in certain ways that you want.
And let's be honest, like the Libertarian Party, for the most part, as candidates, as a party, we don't have a ton of power to get like good people elected as libertarians. It just doesn't happen. We get 4% of the vote consistently, but I think that there's something there. Like if you can use your that 3-4% to sway an election one direction or the other, and you know, for instance, I am talking to several of the elected state reps here in New Hampshire, like for instance, Tom Mannion, and several other really great who get like A+ scores through NHLA for their Liberty scores. I talked into these people and say like, hey, how can we help you guys succeed and keep doing what you need to do so that you can keep growing, so you can keep, you know, expanding your influence. And, you know, some of the things that have been mentioned by people is, you know, well, there's these really terrible Republican state senators like that have like they shut down Defend the Guard last time. They shut down a bill to legalize brass knuckles, which might seem like a ridiculous. It might seem like a ridiculous bill to some people, but like truthfully, like if you can't have like brass knuckles, like this is the most like arbitrary law that exists in the world. Who the hell cares? My
friend got punched in the face by somebody who was holding a vape and it made a mark. You could be holding anything, you know? Well, the thing is, like, everybody thinks of weapons, not everybody, but especially leftists think of weapons. And apparently these Republicans, like you said, that shut it down, like bad Republicans, as if you only use a weapon to harm people who don't deserve it. Like, the main use of a weapon should be self-defense. So I guess some people do find that an appalling bill, but it's not.
And making something illegal doesn't mean that nobody's going to have it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's silly to even think that, because if that were the case, no one would ever get murdered.
Yeah. There's a store right down the street from my house that sells candlestick holders that are shaped like brass knuckles.
Wow. Yeah, there's always ways to get around these things too. I can't imagine being a Republican and being against that. It seems to make no sense. Republicans are... This is another big point. Republicans need to be criticized, and they are bad a lot of the times. And I'm completely open to anybody doing anything they want to do with their social life. I'm not a Republican. But the thing is, these left-wingers have gotten so bad that I almost never even think about the bad stuff Republicans do. It's like there's no check on them. Mm-hmm. There's no check on the Republicans right now because Democrats are so bad. Like, you just don't want to be as bad as them.
Well, and the fact that they're bad, there's so many bad ones out there, is all the more reason to run libertarians as Republicans and get people in there who are not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, not just running them, as Republicans though, too. Like, I use my own, so I'm trying to lead by example a little bit here, because in 2022 I ran for sheriff, and when I ran as a libertarian, I went out and I collected my own signatures to get on the ballot, and I ran because there was only a Democrat that basically put his name in. So at first it was me versus a Democrat. Well, Republican Party has like time after the deadline where they can just fill empty seats if no one signed up. So they found somebody, and they don't vet these people at all. But literally 2 years prior, that person had lost the primary against as a Democrat. He switched parties to run as a Republican this time around, but he had been like a lifelong Maggie Hassan supporter.
Oh, wow.
And a Democrat, full-fledged Democrat, Act Blue Democrat. And this is the guy that the Republicans had put in as their candidate to run for county sheriff. So essentially, I was running against two Democrats at this point. So I ran on a constitutional sheriff campaign. I ended up getting a pretty good percentage of the vote, even with less than $1,000 budget for my campaign. I put signs up everywhere. I door knocked. I called people. I met
And you were
people.
running as a libertarian?
I was running as a libertarian. And I got a decent enough percentage of the vote where I was able to, by running as a constitutional sheriff, cause the person running as Republican to lose. And, the people who got upset in the NHGOP because I caused a Republican to lose don't even still probably understand that person is still a Democrat to this day.
Wow.
That person has absolutely not a Republican bone in his body. He's not a conservative. I was the only one running on,
That's the break music, so I'm going to have to cut you off there. We're going to go on a 4-minute break, but I agree. You should definitely be able to run as a libertarian too, and these people are just voting based on the letters. So 603-283, it's Free Talk Live, more coming up. Dang it.
Citing their effortless physical strength, affability, and notable bass hands, reports from the country's pools, lakes, and beaches have indicated that once again, the nation's Blakes coasted effortlessly through this year's seasonal lifeguard tryouts. Onion reporters spoke with Cincinnati Centennial Pool's manager, Charles Walker, about the exceptional performance of his Blakes.
We always see strong performances from Blakes, but this year's crop did especially well. Blake D did the 25-yard underwater swim in 86 seconds. Blake S and Blake C both carried subjects 40 yards without breaking a sweat.
In addition to qualifying as pool managers and certified aquatics instructors, the nation's Blakes significantly outshined the nation's stewards in swimming, performing CPR, diving, and glistening.
I'm definitely looking forward to being a lifeguard this summer. I heard the test was kind of hard, but it's actually kind of easy.
Our Kaylas are looking pretty strong too. As long as we have a few Blakes and Kaylas out there on the weekends, we'll be set.
This is the Onion News Network.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump's spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. From the summit site, Ollie Barrett reports.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal, with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer reiterating that the UK will put boots on the ground, he says, and planes in the air to help police any such peace deal, and he says that other countries are now working with him to decide what they could do in the event of such a scenario as well. He insists that the countries here are unified in their views when it comes to approaching Ukraine, but also needing to up their own defence capabilities as well. And Keir Starmer, with the summit concluding at Lancaster House in London behind me, insisting that Washington remains, he says, a reliable ally. The context, of course, the backdrop for this summit has been those difficult talks in Washington last week between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The idea is that the UK and other countries here can encourage Ukraine and the US to get back round a table and start talking again about a peace deal, about a minerals deal of the type that was supposed to be signed in Washington last week. The UK, France, Ukraine and a number of other countries are also going to work on a peace plan that they say can be presented to Donald Trump as a possible way forward out of this crisis. But despite the leaders being in agreement about a lot here in London today, there is also a lot that divides European countries about exactly how to move forward. But Keir Starmer hoping that he can become that bridge between European countries and the White House.
In the US, meanwhile, many Republican Party lawmakers are coming out in defense of Donald Trump following his remarkable televised dressing down of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. Here's Speaker of the House of Representatives Mike Johnson on NBC.
President Trump has brought back strength to the White House, but we need President Zelensky to do what is necessary. This war has drug on far too long. We've got to bring an end to it.
Democrats, though, are reacting with dismay. Senator Chris Murphy suggesting the shouting match is proof that the White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. And Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And I wanted to say you have Bonnie, Lori, and Ben on the show tonight, but I did want to say if you're calling in, I think we should keep it on topic while we have Ben on the show. We're talking about LPNH. We're going to talk about his nonprofit. So sorry, there were some people that called in but dropped off because I didn't answer them because we're in the middle of kind of I just want to set up like what's going on. I want people who could potentially vote at the convention to hear about it. And there are just people who are interested in the topics that aren't actually going to go to the convention. And, you know, you don't get to pick every topic, I guess, even though it's Free Talk Live. Well, Ian told me I could do more guests and less of whatever else I don't want to do. So we're all good. So in the studio tonight, you have me, Bonnie. We also have Lori in the studio tonight. And Ben, you're running for LPNH chair. What do you think is the most important thing people should know that would be different about you if you got elected versus the person you're running against?
Well, I've got some a very different strategy. So first things first, LPNH has a duty to represent its delegation and its members, and for the most part, our members, want to be able to. A lot of them are free staters. They moved to New Hampshire for the Free State Project, and they moved here because they want to make a difference politically in their communities. I want to use it to help bring in new movers, which I'm sure the other side might say something similar. The difference is that my strategy of doing that is certainly different because if you look at the state house makeup here in New Hampshire, we have a lot of free staters that have been elected as Liberty Republicans. And I do not want to compete with them. I want to You know, if we can, as without, you know, not necessarily giving money to them or anything like that, but I want to be able to support them, you know, vocally and echo what they have to say, and not stand in the way. Whereas the opposition, some of them may have personal vendettas against these people because they don't agree with them on certain cultural issues.
Yes.
And they would like to compete with them. They want the Libertarian Party to have ballot access or whatever, so that they can run people to hurt their, you know, their elections and possibly cause them to lose. So for me, I think the ballot access debate, you know, that's something that every Libertarian Party affiliate argues about and fights about all the time. In 2024, Libertarians in New Hampshire spent over $40,000 to get, you know, a presidential candidate on the ballot, that and a governor candidate who's actually a nice guy, but you know, to get less than 4,000 votes. So they spent over $40,000 to get less than 4,000 votes as a president, or it was around 4,000. It might have been a little bit more than 4,000, but regardless, that's not a great return on investment. And the reason they had to spend so much is because there's infrastructural problems. If you don't have the volunteers to go out and get signatures for free, for instance, and if you have to do nothing but pay people to collect signatures, which it's getting more and more expensive every single election, then, you know, it's not really worth it for your organization, in my opinion, to spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, which is, I believe, what LPNH ended up spending last year to help. But I would rather spend that money on 100 smaller elections and get candidate signs for people running for school board or for city council, or I guess not city council, but selectmen, you know, and kind of spread that out over a bunch more people, because we do have people getting elected to several boards across the state. And you know, we've even had former executive committee members for LPNH win as Liberty Republicans, and they're elected to the state house right now. So,
yep. I think that the other side, the thing is, I was invited to be in a group chat with the other side, and I saw what they were talking about. So I know this for a fact. And they also made a website called, like, oh man, I genuinely would plug it. I just don't remember. It's like
Take Back LPNH. Yeah.
Yes. It's Take Back LPNH. And I don't remember how that's formatted even. Maybe takeback.lpnh.com. And I've screenshotted, highlighted little pieces there where I know that they're kind of just hinting at it, but they are saying that they don't want Libertarians to run as Republicans. And we kind of beat that dead horse already, but that is their strategy. They didn't really get into strategy at all on the Free Talk Cast episode. Not only did I didn't listen to the whole thing, like I said, but a friend of mine is a listener, and he said he was just confused about what the whole thing was, like that they didn't talk about it. It's just like feelings. It's just feelings. All they care about is owning the Republicans. And actually, that's kind of funny, because they're always like mad that they say LPNH only cares about owning the libs. Maybe true, but right now all they care about is owning the Republicans. I didn't know all that about all the amount of money that was spent, but that is a really crazy amount of money for not a good return on investment, like you said. It looks like Ben has dropped off, but he might just come right back in. But I also agree that if people are going to run for things, local is much more important, much more effective than national. Like, why would you even do that?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see a point at all.
I agree. If you can get Libertarians into positions where you are, it's going to have much more impact on your life. Having
a person in a school board position would do so much more for the people around you's lives, including things like voting to drop the school budget and stuff like that.
You got to think about, like, what does the president really affect in your day-to-day life? And it's not as much as you would imagine. But the people like your governor and the school board and things like that, they affect your day-to-day life much, much more, especially people with kids who go to school and things like that.
I really do think that the national stuff is mostly theater. Like, I've never been more close to thinking the opposite because of the fact that Trump actually did what he said he was going to do and let Ross Ulbricht out. No, I know, but I was just saying, like, I can't believe there's anything that actually gets done. Like, I can't believe you can actually affect it at all, is what I was saying. I've never believed you could affect it at all. Oh, I say I've never. Since maybe 2016, I stopped believing you can affect it at all.
Yeah, I also feel that way, and I feel like that maybe Trump is not... I mean, he probably is puppeted, but I don't think by the same people that have been puppeting everyone this whole time.
That's a good point. Actually, there's a guy named Mark Passio, and he does whatonearthishappening.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a good show.
He says that what his theory is that there are these like smaller, I might be like saying it a little wrong, but he says that there are these smaller competing factions, and they're all, Satanists, but everybody in them wants power, and maybe they have like slightly differing opinions here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And so like most of them can work in lockstep. Most of them are much better than libertarians, who are famously like herding cats, is what people say, at working together to get crap done. But it may be true that the people who handle Trump are different than the people who handle Biden, for example, even though they're both death cultists, which I almost started talking about that last night with the Zelensky thing, but we started talking about other things.
I watched that, and I have a very different opinion than you on that whole thing. You thought that it was good, and I think that it made them look like buffoons. Like,
I think that they
can't keep your cool.
Should look like buffoons.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, but like it doesn't make the country look good when your topmost executives can't keep their cool in a conversation and like assert their dominance in a way that doesn't make them look like irrational people.
I think that honestly, Zelensky looked much worse, but we have Ben back now, by the way. Sorry about that. I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us, Ben? I might have had you muted there. Nope. I don't know why that's not working right now. So like the phone line isn't seeming to be working right now.
Is the phone and Jitsi at the same time a problem?
Nope.
No?
Should not be a problem. Yep, I don't know what's up with that. Maybe Ben, if you're not hearing us, then maybe you should call back. But I hear you. I hear something.
Maybe he popped into Hellas.
Oh, I hear you. It was kind of quiet. I hear you there, Ben.
Okay. Yeah. So I just called in on the line because I don't know. It says it's waiting on an authenticated user to start the conference on the video side. So.
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that.
But regardless, if we need to continue here, we can do that. But I was just kind of saying, I think it's important to recognize what power dynamics look like in real life. And like I said, I'm an anarchist, so I don't really care about political parties in general. Just by participating in even the Libertarian Party, I'm actually compromising on my values. However, I do believe that the LP represents freedom at the most absolute level. And I think if we want to get freedom in our lifetime, which is everyone's goal here, especially for free staters here in New Hampshire, we just want to make society more free for us every day. We need to implement kind of a bit of Machiavellian strategy, which is where you basically, you recognize that, the entrenched powers that exist, in order to challenge them, we need to be flexible, strategic, and sometimes willing to use an imperfect means to achieve that, like the noble ends, if you will. So I think the Libertarian Party needs to implement, a strategy like that. And people associate Machiavelli with violence, and I'm a peaceful person, so I'm not advocating violence by any means. But I don't believe that pragmatism is necessarily a betrayal of liberty. I think it's actually one of the keys to achieving it. So if we can, align with people who are winning elections and doing great things, passing awesome bills to push the needle in our direction, why would we want to fight back against that? Like, why aren't we helping that every chance we get over the name of a brand, the Libertarian Party? The Libertarian Party as a brand should not be standing in the way of pushing that needle forward. It should be promoting it and boosting it any way that it can. So I think that's the biggest difference between me and my opponent and the opposition, is that I want to use LPNH as a vehicle to push that needle towards liberty in any way possible.
Are you a local or a free state mover, Ben?
I moved here in 2022. So
for the Free State Movement project?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep, for
okay.
the Free State project. Yep.
And I did too. And Lori, what did you move here for? Like the Free State Movement?
No. I just happened to already be free, and then got here and was like, "Oh, hey, cool."
Oh, you guys didn't know about this stuff?
Stu did.
Oh, okay.
But I was not so much into I didn't know about the whole community. And then he was like, "Hey, I'm going to go to Jay's house." And I was like, "Okay." And then we just kind of fell into it.
So I always say Free State Movement because I'm not interested really in the ink. It's not that I hate it or something. I'm just not aligned with it all the time. And I think that they make a lot of bad calls. But I think that it's important to note that there are people that are going to be at this convention that just care about the Libertarian Party, like capital L. And that's like kind of their lives. That's what's important in their lives. It's like this social thing. That's why I've never really been interested in it at all. The Libertarian movement to New Hampshire is so much bigger than a political party. And I just think it's unfortunate that the LP has that name, honestly. I think that it's almost like it should just be, it should just not exist. It'd be better if it didn't exist, but it exists and somebody's going to be in control of it. So I think it should be somebody not working against us, as you're saying, Ben. I'm really interested in hearing about, because I didn't get to attend it. I didn't know it was happening at the time. I'm really interested to hear about, you did a gun buyback activism event. Were you doing that under the LP or just did it yourself?
Yeah, I did that as a Libertarian Party event. Back in at the end of 2023, in August or so. So essentially what we did with that was, I like to obviously push the limit on, I like to troll the cops. I'm not, a huge cop supporter by any means. So, we stood outside of the Manchester Police Department and we held signs that said, save the dogs, and offered to buy back police firearms for $25 gift cards and free donuts.
Nice.
We gave out a ton of free donuts to people in the community that just stopped by to see what we were doing. We had some great conversations. There's a video of me walking into the police station asking if I could talk to somebody, and basically everyone avoided me. Anyone that was a law enforcement officer just avoided me. I didn't get a chance to talk to anybody. But There's clips of me yelling across the parking lot, hey, if you kill any dogs, I'll find you, bro. Because the premise was, cops kill, I think it was something along the lines of 27 dogs a day across America.
Oh my God.
And it's tragic. And, I'm not like a vegan or animal rights person, but what cops do to dogs also happens to people. And, it's a violation of people's rights to kill their pets and their furry protectors, all because cops get a little bit too trigger happy and aren't trained and aren't disciplined. And
they're scared. They're paranoid freaks.
Yeah, they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we ended up getting the video went kind of viral on Twitter and a couple places, but we got put into the Union Leader, which is one of the local papers, and that was great. I'd love to do more events like that kind of have a dual purpose, interacting with the community, that have viral, funny potential, and we get to troll the right people. But at the same time, it's a serious topic because, when I ran for sheriff in 2022, part of my campaign was to end qualified immunity as well. And that is a step in the right direction as well, to remove these protections that police officers get, that, prevent them from being held accountable if they make a mistake. When things like insurance exist, there's no reason that should be a thing, because they could literally get liability insurance, and it would, if they ended up getting sued, it wouldn't be the department getting sued, it would be that specific officer. When the departments get sued and, the departments have to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in malpractice suits and stuff like that, that burden ultimately ends up in the person that's getting the money's pocket too, because it all gets paid for by taxes.
Yep.
It all gets paid for by the money that we're paying to the government. It's not paid for by the police department or by the cop. It's
no skin off their nose, literally.
Our pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's literally the same thing as all the DCYF people. They have to pay out some ridiculous number of millions of dollars every year. DCYF does, which is Child Protective Services of New Hampshire, because they get sued for all this child neglect and abuse and rape that happens to children in New Hampshire under their eye. And it literally is, like Ben saying, no skin off their back, because they end up having some kind of a fund that pays these families for what happened to their children, or the people when they grow up for what happened to them.
Mm-hmm. But you're paying yourself.
Yep, it's just the taxpayers paying them. There are no consequences to cops under qualified immunity. They are not responsible to anyone else. And that's a big problem. So, yeah, I loved the gun buyback thing, and I just would love to see more stuff like that from LPNH. I think that's 10 times cooler and better than anything done ever on the Twitter. I don't care if it made national news. I think that was best.
Because it's real life. You know what I mean? Like, if you go out and engage with people, ultimately that's going to have a big effect, whether you realize it or not. Some of the people we were able to talk to, not everyone necessarily agreed with us, but we certainly were able to find common ground and have great discussions. Some people did agree with us, that the cops, overreach, and that they should, maybe have better training that is, I guess, like I said, I'm an anarchist, so I'm not advocating for publicly funded anything, but if we must have some kind of public police department, they should have better training. They should have, with all the money that's given to them, I think they can use a little bit of an equipment cut back, or, maybe less bonuses certain years and less overtime, so that we can, they can get better training or whatever. Because, I don't know, they are definitely overreaching. In New Hampshire, being one of the safest states, we do have some police overreach here, like quite a bit. Obviously, you know more than anyone what the police are capable of doing.
Yeah, they're the feds, but the local police did work on it too.
Oh, sure, yeah, like they all work hand in hand. I think that's where, if we had like a good constitutional sheriff in every county, that could go a long way as well, because they could tell the ATF and the feds to basically kick rocks.
Yep. Ben, do you want to tell us about... Yeah, I do know what you mean. I've heard of the constitutional sheriff idea, and I think that it's a great one. Like, if people want to do that, I don't think I would run for something simply because I'm in Keene. It's just impossible. Like, sure. It needs to be cut off and given to Vermont, literally. Like, even if it's just a little island, and we keep the surrounding neighborhoods or whatever.
Vermont's insane.
But, Ben, I did want to ask you, before we finish our conversation with you, about the nonprofit that you started this year. What is that all about?
Sure. So, yeah, I started Punks for Liberty. I was a touring musician for over 10 years, and I was able to travel the country, play music. I'm not saying that we are like some huge band or anything, but, on a mid-level, I guess, DIY band where we did everything ourselves. And really, I did everything myself, all the booking and stuff. We had some great opportunities. We played with, Korn, Stone Sour, some of the biggest bands in the world. Even played at Vans Warped Tour in 2015.
Oh, wow.
And, when I was, doing all this, the one thing I realized is that while there is a lot of super lefty people in the music scene that are trying to cancel people for words every corner. There's also a lot of people who are being suppressed that they don't, they're scared to speak their mind through their art. And if there's ever supposed to be a place where people can speak their mind freely, it's supposed to be through art, through music. I mean, this is how I formed a lot of my original political opinions, was through punk rock and through the music I listened to growing up. So off of that, I started the Libertarian Party Emo Caucus, which eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm going to start a nonprofit. And our goals with that are to basically go to major music festivals across the country and, be vendors at those and, promote free speech absolutism, anti-censorship, maybe other legislation that comes up, like, such as, Daytrim Nature or something like that. But ultimately, we're here to create a network of musicians that we can boost their voice and, create, I think that there's strength in numbers, and there's a lot of artists out there that are, like I said, just their voices are being suppressed. So if we can bring all those together and promote them in any way possible through other people's art, through music, through festivals, etc., then that's what I want to do.
That's really cool. So that's Punks for Liberty. Is there a website?
Yeah, punksforliberty.org.
punksforliberty.org. Well, thank you for talking to us, Ben. And it's Free Talk Live. That number is 603-283-6160. If you'd like to call in with whatever is on your mind, it's Free Talk Live. More coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Eleutheromania, the insatiable desire for freedom. It's the new 3-song heavy metal EP from Captain Kickass. Available now on your favorite music app or get it directly from CaptainKickass.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump's spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. From the summit site, Ollie Barrett reports.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer reiterating that the UK will put boots on the ground, he says, and planes in the air to help police any such peace deal. And he says that other countries are now working with him to decide what they could do in the event of such a scenario as well. He insists that the countries here are unified in their views when it comes to approaching Ukraine, but also needing to up their own defence capabilities as well. And Keir Starmer, with the summit concluding at Lancaster House in London behind me, insisting that Washington remains, he says, a reliable ally. The context, of course, the backdrop for this summit has been those difficult talks in Washington last week between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The idea is that the UK and other countries here can encourage Ukraine and the US to get back round a table and start talking again about a peace deal, about a minerals deal of the type that was supposed to be signed in Washington last week. The UK, France, Ukraine and a number of other countries are also going to work on a peace plan that they say can be presented to Donald Trump as a possible way forward out of this crisis. But despite the leaders being in agreement about a lot here in London today, there is also a lot that divides European countries about exactly how to move forward. But Keir Starmer hoping that he can become that bridge between European countries and the White House.
In the US, meanwhile, many Republican Party lawmakers are coming out in defense of Donald Trump following his remarkable televised dressing down of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. Here's Speaker of the House of Representatives Mike Johnson on NBC.
President Trump has brought back strength to the White House, but we need President Zelensky to do what is necessary. This war has drug on far too long. We've got to bring an end to it.
Democrats, though, are reacting with dismay. Senator Chris Murphy suggesting the shouting match is proof that the White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. The surprise flight to America taken on Thursday by Andrew and Tristan Tate, two social media espousers of aggressive masculinity who have been facing charges in Romania of rape and sex trafficking. President Trump at the White House claimed to know nothing of their departure from Bucharest and their arrival in Fort Lauderdale. But Matthew Jury, a lawyer representing 4 of Andrew Tate's alleged British victims, disagrees.
The Romanian government has acknowledged that the Trump administration raised the matter with the Romanian authorities last week. We know from sources that have been reported on in the Financial Times, which I think we can trust, have said that a serious pressure was leveraged against the Romanian authorities to return the Tate's passports. And lo and behold, here they are, travelling on a private jet from Romania to Fort Lauderdale in Florida.
And he said his clients are furious that justice against the Tate brothers may now be delayed, if not denied.
They are absolutely disgusted, dismayed, distraught, traumatized by the fact that the so-called leader of the free world has deemed it fit to intervene and interfere with the trial and the due process in respect of their alleged abuser.
The Tates are fervent supporters of President Trump and are dual US-UK citizens, so legally entitled to live in either country. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
A reminder of our top stories. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. Elsewhere, Israel's blocked the entry of all humanitarian aid into Gaza as it demands Hamas agrees to an American plan for a ceasefire extension. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
A new video game is being criticized for its harsh portrayal of barbed wire. Here's Game Byte's Caitlin Torres with more.
Bethesda's The Evil Within is a nightmarish adventure that shows bloody and rusty barbed wire being used to hurt innocent people, which has angered the nation's barbed wire producers.
Barbed wire is a positive force for good. It protects our junkyards from scrap metal thieves and helps keep our cattle ranches safe from rustlers. But Bethesda thinks it's okay to ignore all the benefits of barbed wire and make it look like some scary thing used by murderers.
The designers have promised that the game will feature prominent messages extolling the virtues of the sharp steel fencing. But barbed wire groups say that it's too little too late.
If Bethesda wants to make this right, they should have the main character go behind a fence and then be safe from monsters because they can't climb over the barbed wire to get him. Now, that's a game I would play.
Let's hope Bethesda listens.
Thanks, Caitlin.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Lori,
and we have Ben remotely. And we are just going to start talking about other things tonight. You don't have to talk about LPNH with us anymore. I feel like we got that out of our system. I beat a few dead horses. But some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month. And we also have a members-only chat enabled. So that's video.freetalklive.com will take you right there. And the number again is 603-283-6160. We have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the phones. Turd Ferguson, you're on Free Talk Live and accidentally kicked off Ben. Turd Ferguson, what's on your mind?
That's too bad because I actually had a question for him at the end of my call. Hopefully he'll get back on. And remind me at the end. I mean, you can hang up on me, obviously, at the end if you want to, or you can keep me on to respond in a way to continue the conversation from my argument with Chris last week before I was dumped in the middle of our argument, which I wish I wasn't because it was an interesting conversation.
Lime Chris?
Huh?
Do you mean Lime Chris or Penguin?
I mean gay Chris.
Oh, okay, so gay Chris.
Yeah. I was going to say, Polymarket published an article this past Thursday at news.polymarket.com. It's currently sitting at the top article right now on the website by one Turd Ferguson of endingpolitics.com, who did a guest blog for them.
Congratulations, Turd.
Wait, what site did you get on?
Polymarket.
Polymarket, okay.
Polymarket's news website. Which is news.polymarket.com. And it was about, it was basically my opinion about a Federal Reserve audit, which is a hot topic right now. It's in the midst of a renaissance, as I wrote in my article, because of Doge and Elon Musk and him kind of teasing on X about a potential audit of the Fed, as well as the kind of resurgence of Ron Paul's popularity, which has been also sort of in the midst of a renaissance, especially since this audit the Fed stuff started coming up again. But I wrote about three pretty interesting things in the article, and I'm a little bit offended that you guys didn't cover my story because I would have loved to have heard it as a topic on Free Talk Live, but it's okay. I'm not that mad. But I did bring up in the article about a few things, but specifically and most importantly, the potential of the Federal Reserve actually buying debt at a markup, the elites and the financial institutions on their security purchasing platform called FedTrade, which only they're allowed on. Only the beautiful people are allowed on that, not us. You got to be one of the beautiful ones. And I think that if I'm right, and they are in fact buying debt at a markup, then this is effectively creating an endless supply of passive income for the elites from just moving treasuries from the primary market right over to the secondary market for the Fed to buy from them. This is an inflationary practice, and I make that case in the article that it is basically a wealth transfer through the value of our money, that the Fed prints money to buy these stupid, idiotic, crappy treasuries, this crappy debt from the elites, moving treasuries from one market to another at the expense of the rest of us. And I think it's wrong. And I write all about it in that article. And I think, and by the way, people's heads are totally exploding from this. People, and you can actually see it in the comments of the article. I mean, there's this one guy, this sort of trad finance guy, who is just so mad that I even dare question what the Federal Reserve is doing.
Oh, nice.
And
I'm going to go
I
read the
thought that was
comments because that
funny.
sounds fun. That's my favorite, is like comments where people are upset.
Yeah. And then some people, of course, agree with me, but some of them are upset.
But you said based on this article you had a question?
No, my question was unrelated.
He just wanted
it was
to tell
related to
us.
a topic we were talking about last week.
I'm sorry. I was just kind of waiting for the question, so I didn't have like a lot of commenting to do. But okay, it's cool that they put your article up on Polymarkets, and go ahead with your question.
Okay, so this is my question, and this is what hopefully, I don't know if your guy's back to give his thoughts maybe after I'm done. But last week, I was stating my displeasure with the current immigration system and how it's objective that the Democrats are taking advantage of mass immigration because they believe, like the data says, that 90% of illegal immigrants that will vote in an election through various illegal activities, like the states allowing them to vote or whatever they do, they're going to vote Democrat. That's what the data says, and the Democrats know that. And I think that illegal immigrants coming up here and voting in our elections is wrong.
Yeah.
Now, apparently Gay Chris doesn't agree with me on that, which I don't know why. I think that's crazy. But apparently he doesn't. Apparently he welcomes immigrants to come up and vote in our elections and give him less freedom, and he's all fine and dandy because he's a nice principled libertarian, I guess. And then he's talking about how successful the Free State Project is, which I also think is ridiculous.
Oh
I moved to New Hampshire for the Free State Project in
What year?
2016.
Okay.
And I just, and I've since left because I realized what a joke that it was. But by the way, I still actually wish the Free Staters luck. I want you guys to create a free society up there so that I can move there afterwards and take advantage of the free society you created. Now, Chris says, even though he welcomes illegal immigrants that don't want the freedom that he wants, and I want the freedom that he wants, Chris says that he doesn't want me there after he's created a free society. Okay, well, maybe I get that because I didn't help. I didn't help him. But the problem is, if he's a libertarian, I want to know what he's going to do. Is he going to initiate force against me? Is he going to stop me from immigrating to his free society? Because if he's going to initiate force against me, that sounds like a violation of his precious non-aggression principle. So I just think that Chris is retarded for that logic. But I want to know what you guys think.
I think
you like the fact that the people that ruined Massachusetts? Hold on, let me just finish this last question.
They did ruin
and
Massachusetts.
then you can answer all of them.
You're right. I have to go there all the time. It's horrible.
Yeah, right. So the people that are leaving Massachusetts and moving up to Nashua and starting to work at Guitar Center in Nashua with their leftist bullcrap and their authoritarian left-wing policies, do you want them to come up there and ruin all the hard work that you guys have tried to do? And by the way, if you don't stop these people who ruined Massachusetts with their socialist policies from coming to New Hampshire, what you're doing is never going to work because there are going to be too many of them to outvote the less than 20,000 of you, because there were never 20,000 to begin with, and there was never going to be. But I don't want to say most of us, but a good bit of us have left. And I want to know how that this free
I don't think anybody claims that there are 20,000 movers. We got to 20,000 signers, right? Because when I moved here in 2021, I was like I asked what number I was, and it was something like 5,000 something.
Okay, so I want to say that I think that I think that stop turd. Hold on. I think that the people who are open borders libertarians are operating under the ideal that there's not a welfare state.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is there is a welfare state. And if you have open borders with a welfare state, you're going to get illegal immigrants who come in specifically for that reason. And those people are going to vote for their best interests, which is the things that you don't want to happen. So you cannot have both things at the same time. And if we still have the welfare state, so then you have to be not for open borders at the moment.
I also agree with you, Turd, that it's literally bad logic what Chris was doing. What he was saying. Oh, I will let anybody come in, but not you because you didn't work.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous, and I mean, well, I think Chris is retarded for a number of reasons, but yeah, I agree, it's totally illogical, and I mean, I find the most kind of ridiculous thing about Chris's whole attitude about this, and by the way, I think his attitude is ridiculous, period. But about this particular situation, I find his attitude to be most ridiculous and disingenuous because he's like, "Oh yeah, let's just bring in all the illegal immigrants because I'm so accepting and I'm such a good libertarian. Oh yeah, but you didn't help me create my free society up here in New Hampshire. Well, I don't want you to come in."
Well, what is your question?
It's even more ridiculous because he can't stop me.
Oh, sorry,
well, my question is what does the guy that's running for New Hampshire chair of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party think about allowing massholes to come up and ruin your free society up there through voting for their socialist policies? What are you thinking about that, sir?
Great question. First of all, I will say that we are actually trying to run a campaign to scare massholes away from New Hampshire, which will help our cause probably quite a bit up here.
I would support
that. I'll say this. I'm a closed borders, private property libertarian all the way through. I will take 1 million illegal libertarians in New Hampshire than one single liberty deserter who left New Hampshire because they weren't getting the results as quickly as they wanted. That was a joke, kind of, but also I'm just.
Turd, I do think
you
the point.
You would know that through.
Go ahead, Turd.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I do think the point that it didn't.
My point is.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Maybe there's a lag here.
Okay, we're obviously. Okay, yeah, we're obviously experiencing a delay here, but look, this is my point. I'm assuming that the chairman of the New Hampshire, or the future chairman of the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, agrees with me that the only reason he'd be able to keep me out of his anarcho-capitalist utopia is if he initiated force against me. And I have some pretty big goals and dreams in this life and ambitions that go beyond just creating a free society that may or may not work at the end of the day, because there are a lot of people in New Hampshire that don't want what you want. And I don't want to spend my entire life trying to accomplish a mission that might not get accomplished because I don't have control over the other 1.4 million people that live in New Hampshire. The only person that I have control over is CJ. And I want to control CJ's goals and dreams because I am CJ, and that's all I can do.
I feel like maybe a lot of listeners don't know that, like, your real name, so it sounded like that's like, oh, I have control over my gay partner or something. But anyways, so I understand what you're saying, Turd, and Ben, what do you have to say about that? I don't think that he was actually saying.
The power is in the individual. I'm an anarchist, but I am not a utopian by any stretch of the imagination. Ancapistan's never going to exist. ANCAPs and libertarians are dumb for saying that it could. So I believe that, while we need to push the needle towards, freedom at the most absolute level, outside of government, at the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself, and you can't control everything around you. I think that it's more important to have an internal locus of control and focus on what you do have the ability to fix, instead of worrying about the external locus of control, which is constantly blaming the government for every problem in your life. Because the truth is, that that's not the case. The government isn't directly responsible for every problem in your life. Some of your problems are a result of your direct actions. And if you can fix those for yourself and, maybe create a free community in your direct vicinity, it doesn't have to be an entire state. It could be, the free town of, I don't know, I'm going to pick the worst probably town in the world, but Pittsfield, New Hampshire, or something like that, some small town where you can take over a selectman board and you can concentrate people. Even, that's the whole point of the Free State Project. You decentralize, you collectively bring yourself together just to decentralize and to break it down even further. If we could have New Hampshire split up into 100 different states, that would be even better. But obviously, like I said, I'm not a utopian. It's not going to happen. We just have to, as individuals, understand that, the world's never going to be the perfect dream that we've always wanted. We do have to be a bit pragmatic there. So,
I muted Turd because I want to reply, and it's just I feel like he wouldn't hear me replying because of the lag. So I'll unmute you, Turd. But I was just gonna say, it seems like honestly, if you weren't happy here because you weren't 100% free, you're not 100% free in Pennsylvania either. And I just think you have like preferences. Like, I prefer to have people around me that if I wanted to buy meat, I could buy meat from somebody with Bitcoin. That, multiple different things. Like those. That's just an example. Maybe you just don't value that as much as I do, but I don't think that the Free State movement should be sold as move here and really quickly you will literally be living free of the government. I mean, how could I be saying that 4 years after the government, bust in my front door and windows and everything?
Could I add one thing to what I was trying to say too?
Yeah,
is,
Bonnie.
Like if society did break down or something like that, I will say that I feel like secure that I'm in one of the best places that I could possibly be, because we do have people that have farms. We have people that, manage currency of all sorts. We are an extremely armed community. So in terms of sticking out for each other, that's what's the most important thing to me, is that I can I can literally throw a rock in any direction and probably hit a Free Stater's house. And, that speaks volumes to me, because, there's literally a huge community here. We, collectively have, dinner and have, I guess, fellowship every single week to just get to know each other more. That's where the power of the Free State Project is. It's not in controlling a state's government.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say about Turd?
I think that's all fine and great. And I was going to say this. And by the way, after I'm done saying this, I was going to ask Mr. LPNH chairman if he would, in fact, initiate force against me if he did create a free society, and I just wanted to move back there randomly. But let me just say this too. I actually agree with a good bit of what you said, Bonnie. And I read this book once. It was called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. It was by a guy named Harry Brown, whom I really like. And in that book, he talks about alternatives, okay? Because he says anywhere you go, there is going to be a government, a group of people who want to tell you what to do. And there are what's called direct alternatives, and there are indirect alternatives. And an indirect alternative requires you to convince some other amount of people, in your case it might be 1.4 million people that live in New Hampshire, that your way
they don't all affect me.
And in that book, he talks about how difficult of a challenge that really is. And then he talks about, though,
I spend no time trying to do that.
And that's basically ways where you can make yourself more free, and you can free your mind, in a sense, to live a freer life.
Here's the thing. I hear this all the time. I hear this all the time, Turd. It's just like, yeah, you can live in absolute squalor and put up with it, but it's actually really a sign of just not having a lot of self-respect for yourself. If I was to just still be living in a place where I couldn't speak my mind, I was just uncomfortable, like say the pandemic never ended and I'm still showing the cop, yep, I'm wearing a mask to go into Walmart. Well, it doesn't matter how free I get in my mind. It literally doesn't matter. At some point, it's a you problem if you live near the garbage and you don't smell it or it doesn't bother you. It's just like you're okay with a lower quality of life and I'm not.
No, I agree.
You're not
I
more
agree with
free.
that, but dude, in that sense, which is the example that you gave, the direct alternative would have been for you to have packed up your stuff, sold your house, and moved to a country that didn't lock down its entire economy and wasn't forcing
No,
people
it wasn't.
to get
That's
vaccinated
not
and
true. Like I literally packed up my stuff and my dog and moved to a different state, which is tantamount to a different country, and lived in a place where I didn't have to do that anymore. It doesn't matter that, like, whatever you're saying, that, like, technically New Hampshire locked down.
I'm saying in that situation, you need to pick the direct alternative. And by the way, moving to a different state is not tantamount to moving into a different country. The only thing that's tantamount to that is moving to a different country. And what you would have had to have done in that scenario, and by the way,
it's not so much different to move to a different country than it is to move over 1,000 miles away.
One didn't lock down and the other does. If we have two countries and one locks down their
you
economy
used to have no actual information on what actually happened. The lockdown in Texas, especially in the cities, was so bad, and there wasn't anything like that in New Hampshire. There wasn't anything like that in New Hampshire at all. Keene was the worst, and I still was fine. And in fact, in Manchester, where I lived when I first got here, was absolutely open, and I didn't wear a mask anywhere.
I got you, but Bonnie, there are countries in
so there are other countries too, but that doesn't mean anything. These are two different places. The federal government is an illegitimate thing that says it controls a couple things concerning their trade, but that's a different country. Living in Texas most of my life and then coming here was like, I felt like I was in like England. I felt like, what is this place?
Bonnie, I think we're totally talking past each other here. What I'm trying to tell you is that in a situation where you have two countries and one locks down their economy and forces vaccines on their people and forces mask mandates and all this other stuff on their people, and the other country doesn't do those things, then the direct alternative is to move to the less bad country. That is my argument. And I think we might have been talking past each other there a little bit.
Because you made it seem like it was the exact same thing as my situation. But the indirect would be to just stay in the lockdown country and think you're free and meditate.
The indirect alternative. The indirect alternative is to try to convince the other 1.4 million people that want a lockdown that you're right. And that's a very hard, difficult thing to do because people, generally speaking, are not willing to change their minds. And if they are, they're not willing to do it very quickly. It has to be done over a very, very long period of time through their own personal experiences. And that's another thing that Harry Brown talks about in How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. By the way, this is a great book. And like anybody that calls themselves a libertarian should read this book, in my opinion, because it changed my life. But I do want to ask just briefly, Mr. LPNH chairman, if you create a free society and I wanted to move there afterwards, after I didn't do any work, would you initiate force against it?
Okay, well, we're going to be back. It's Free Talk Live. Don't go anywhere. 603-283-6160 if you'd like to get into a conversation about whatever is on your mind. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing. To be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. The The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump's spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. From the summit site, Ollie Barrett reports.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal, with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer reiterating that the UK will put boots on the ground, he says, and planes in the air to help police any such peace deal, and he says that other countries are now working with him to decide what they could do in the event of such a scenario as well. He insists that the countries here are unified in their views when it comes to approaching Ukraine, but also needing to up their own defence capabilities as well. And Keir Starmer, with the summit concluding at Lancaster House in London behind me, insisting that Washington remains, he says, a reliable ally. The context, of course, the backdrop for this summit has been those difficult talks in Washington last week between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The idea is that the UK and other countries here can encourage Ukraine and the US to get back round a table and start talking again about a peace deal, about a minerals deal of the type that was supposed to be signed in Washington last week. The UK, France, Ukraine and a number of other countries are also going to work on a peace plan that they say can be presented to Donald Trump as a possible way forward out of this crisis. But despite the leaders being in agreement about a lot here in London today, there is also a lot that divides European countries about exactly how to move forward. But Keir Starmer hoping that he can become that bridge between European countries and the White House.
In the US, meanwhile, many Republican Party lawmakers are coming out in defense of Donald Trump following his remarkable televised dressing down of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. Here's Speaker of the House of Representatives Mike Johnson on NBC.
President Trump has brought back strength to the White House, but we need President Zelensky to do what is necessary. This war has drug on far too long. We've got to bring an end to it.
Democrats, though, are reacting with dismay. Senator Chris Murphy suggesting the shouting match is proof that the White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. If you called in during the first hour and you didn't get in because we were talking about a specific topic, go ahead and call back if you're still wanting to talk, because the phones are open. And are you tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites? Our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com can set you free. That's social.freetalklive.com. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. social.freetalklive.com. And with you on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie. You also have Lori in the studio, and we have Ben remotely. It's a little harder to do the names thing when there's somebody remote. So in the last segment, I'm just going to restate his question. Turd, I feel like rambled a little. Maybe I was missing his point. Yeah, maybe we were talking past each other, whatever. But he ended on a question for Ben, and he wanted to know if you became, I think he was asking if you became like the president of New Hampshire, would you physically remove him?
Would I physically remove him? So, if I created a perfect utopian free society where everyone appreciates each other's freedom, And we basically at this point have purged all of the leftists out because it's the only way this utopian society would work. Are you working with me or against me? Now, if you are a socialist or communist by any means, you're not welcome in this private property. And I don't think it's a violation of the NAP if you go on someone's private property and you're not welcome there, they can remove you. They can physically remove you. And I'm not like all the way Hoppian or whatever, but he did talk about physical removal out of respect for property rights. And I'll say that there are certain dictators in history who have thrown political opponents out of helicopters. Am I advocating for that? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, if we have a free society, you have a responsibility to protect it. Sure. It's not necessarily it's not up for a vote because that's not freedom. Would I protect it by having you removed? It certainly would depend on what are you welcome here? Have you asked? I'm not open borders, so this is like you really. It's like such a strange question to ask. Have you gotten a passport to come to the free state of Ben Weir's anarchist New Hampshire? Like it's really I don't know, strange question. But
is he like harming people? Or I think he just meant just because you were mad that he didn't help. No, I don't care. I'm a forgiver. So that's once again, internal locus of control. Like I think he should have stayed here and helped the Free State Project to grow. I think it was pretty. I understand people move for a variety of reasons, but because you're not getting to freedom fast enough is kind of a ridiculous reason, to be honest with you. Yeah, Turd has this whole thing where he basically just wants to be mad at Ian, like Ian is wasting his life or something, and by that I mean Ian Freeman, my husband, and he's always implying that like people here are like working so hard towards something that will never happen, but he also strawmans us all because he's acting like we all think like, yeah, just a couple of years New Hampshire will be like a utopia. I mean. And I don't really think that's
wild. I will say that I appreciated some of the things he had said, with the polymarket stuff, when talking about auditing the reserve. I liked how that conversation kind of had started, which, it's cool that he was recognized there. But it kind of did remind me of some of the news today where like Trump's talking about creating like basically a crypto reserve. That's super cringe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know what it would mean. Like we could totally pull up a story about it. We do have a caller on the line though, so I think we should talk to them. But I need to tell everybody, hell has frozen over and pigs are flying because Peter Schiff tweeted about the whole crypto reserve today, and he said in the tweet, Bitcoin is like digital gold but better than physical gold. He said that. So wow. He hates gold or Bitcoin, I thought. Well, we have a caller on the line. I can't tell. Was that you, Skeeter?
Yes.
What's on your mind,
The
Skeeter?
Libertarian Party isn't taking over anything. You guys got to realize liberty is not important. Even you guys don't think so because you guys don't leave for your freedom.
Oh, yeah, because there's somewhere on the planet for me to go and be 100% free.
It's called the high seas, Bonnie.
Yeah, tell that to the people that have gotten their boats taken over Thailand. We've gone over this with Skeeter a million times, and I also have another call on the line I'd rather talk to because it's not Skeeter. Do you guys have anything to say about that you don't care about freedom unless you go live on the high seas?
I've heard a lot about seasteading, and actually the Seasteading Institute is pretty cool, but no, I think that's a ridiculous thing to say.
That's just like everything else Skeeter says.
Yes. I really don't want to talk to him considering that's how he's going to start off. And we have another caller that I don't know who it is on the line. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I know the LPNH leadership is a hot topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a Fed psyop to destroy the liberty movement.
Is that because of the things that they currently tweet? They bother you, and you think that? Go ahead.
Yes, Jeremy Kauffman is a Republican in disguise. There's no doubt about it. They say they used him to cuckold the liberty movement to vote for Trump last year.
I think that most Republicans don't like cops, and Jeremy Kauffman stood up to them. I really hope he's not a Fed.
Most Republicans don't like cops?
Oh, I meant
Most
to say, sorry.
Republicans do like cops.
Do like cops. My bad.
Republicans bootlick for them all the time.
That's what I meant to
They
say.
do.
I'm sorry. I said I think that most Republicans love cops, and that Jeremy Kauffman has stood up to them. I don't really think he's a Fed. I don't think he's a Republican.
But what? How do you explain why the Libertarian Party has gone downhill in the past few years?
This is a matter of perspective entirely.
It's this whole Mises caucus thing. You know, all these right-wing feds, which they do exist, they actually pumped in a bunch of money to give to, like, Michael Heiss and Angela McArdle to basically sandbag the whole libertarian movement.
Well, is that why they took Jeremy Kauffman's business away and like a whole bunch of his money? I always feel annoyed when people get called a Fed after they've been, hurt by the feds. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay, then why is the Libertarian Party, why do they invite Donald Trump to speak at their convention?
Because they successfully made a deal with him?
Yeah, to free Ross.
And you know what's going to happen to Ross is that he's going to turn into a hack for Trump. It's part of his condition of freedom.
Nope, he has an unconditional pardon, so literally not true.
Why haven't I heard Ross speak out against Trump continuing the whole drug war that locked him up in the first place?
Well, Ross has been public saying that he actually is sorry that certain things were sold over that certain, I don't want to put words in his mouth exactly, but he's said that he's sorry for his participation in the fact that people got addicted to hard drugs, and that that's a big step up from weed. So I don't know. I don't really think that you can call him a hypocrite or something. He's been saying that for years.
I mean, Biden just freed Leonard Peltier. I don't hear Leonard Peltier simping for Biden all of a sudden.
Would you only be happy if all of these great things were happening if a libertarian was the president? Because truthfully, it sounds like
is that this movement is being co-opted by authoritarians who have no libertarian values.
That's the old regime. So the old regime are the ones that are essentially were brought in. It's like some MK Ultra or COINTELPRO. I can't whatever.
Yeah, both. I think more COINTELPRO, but yeah.
They were leftist infiltrators that took over a beautiful movement that was founded by some incredible liberty-loving people, and that became hyper obsessed with identity politics.
Dave Nolan would fucking hate what the Libertarian Party
Okay,
did
you're going. This guy obviously was drunk. It doesn't matter if you call in and try to drop the F-bomb on the radio, because we will just dump you. We just dumped him, and now I'm just kind of talking so that way radio listeners hear this little next chunk of what we're saying.
And not just silence, yeah.
Yeah, you can continue to answer him if you wanted to, Ben.
Oh yeah, so David Nolan, the founder of the Libertarian Party, the vision for the Libertarian Party was beautiful. Now, back in the 70s, it was a completely different political atmosphere than we have in 2025. So, to say that, just because, more of a right-wing version of what the Libertarian Party looks like, to call them all feds, that's kind of ridiculous, given that we've had literal feds, kind of chairing the party before, like Nick Sarwark and stuff like that. So, or, Joe Bishop Henchman or whatever. So all of these people who did tremendous damage to the liberty movement and essentially suppressed its value, in the name of ballot access and collecting votes. It does, does getting 4% or more of the vote give you more power as an individual, or does actually coalitioning with somebody who's able to grant you that power and is willing to make a deal with you and strike a deal with you. I think that it's important that we as libertarians, be pragmatic. And this doesn't necessarily mean just with Republicans, obviously. I'm talking like with Democrats too. Like if we could we did this with Defend the Guard here in New Hampshire. We have the head of the Progressive Caucus helping us get the Defend the Guard bill passed again. You know what I mean? So like there's ways to, what was that?
Do you know which guy that is?
Jonah is his name.
Jonah Wheeler. Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's really nice.
It's great.
He was agreeable about tons of drug things a few years ago. He was agreeable about tons of drug things, but
funny on my screen.
He voted for some bad stuff afterwards. So that's really nice to hear that he's all on board with Defend the Guard and that there's actually like a coalition that could get passed this year.
Yeah, it was really great. And Ellen Reed's actually one of them too. She is one of the Democrats as well, and she's got ties with the progressives down in like Massachusetts and stuff too. So we're trying to use her to bridge the gap with, hopefully some other states can make some moves there as well. I think that New Hampshire has the chance to be the first state to pass the Defend the Guard bill. And I think that this is obviously a great thing, but in order to make it happen, we have to sway some of those state Senate votes. So if we can't switch a couple of those votes over to our side, it's not going to make it to the governor.
Well, the president of the Free State Project, Eric Brakey, said that we got more six, I think, Liberty people in the Senate. That would be huge if true.
Yeah.
We have a caller on the line. So I'm going to go to Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, I'm sorry to change the subject, but
it's fine.
I was at Dairy Queen today, and I actually went into a couple that actually wanted the red light cameras back. And then I told them about we have 8 speeding cameras, and he's like, speeding? They're like, what? They're like, oh yeah, I know that, but it's not worth much. It's not going to do that thing, because he told me that he was struck walking on the green light, and somebody turned a red. I mean, they still had the green light, but there was a break in the traffic, so they made that left turn and just ran it and just flattened him out, and he broke his collarbones and legs or something, and he was walking with the crutches.
Are you saying that he was crossing the street on the green light and got hit by a car?
Oh, I see.
Turning a left.
Okay.
Right,
okay.
I was
so
told,
it wasn't his turn? I was like, oh, that's sad, because I thought she was saying his green light. I guess that's not what you call that, like the walkie light. You walk now light.
Nope. She said that he walked out on a green light and got hit by a car.
So Sarah,
that's when the cars are going.
It was the car's turn and he got hit by a car?
Right, and then that's that is the most common type of pedestrian injury.
So it is the pedestrian's fault.
Sounds
like we've been saying this whole time.
Pedestrians off the road.
there
Sarah,
ought to be a law. Green light.
What would a red light camera do in that situation for him anyway?
Prove that he's the one in the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, they'll have. They better not flee. They have a picture of who hit them. You can't just hit and run. So they have a really good photo of all these people. So I don't know. In that predicament, you might have to appeal it to court, because only thing when they were turning the left, it's a very dangerous situation. The only thing that they're looking at is the car. There's a break in the car, and they gotta make that real short, quick left turn because they don't have their separate arrow.
That's because nobody's supposed to be walking when it's green. You're supposed to wait your turn. That is
Sarah,
the person who got hit by the car's
he
fault.
He had the green light. You don't understand. The walk signal said you are safe to walk.
Okay, that's what we were asking.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of asked you if that was the case, and I think you misunderstood my question. So he was able to walk, but the car was not supposed to go. That is a different story.
Car has to
I still don't think.
Pedestrian.
I get it. I get it. It was not the car's turn. It was not the car's turn, and that this guy got hit by a car. I just don't think that red light cameras catch enough things like that happening to justify their existence. All they do is harass people. They harass so many more people than you're going to catch in a situation like that. That's funny.
Well, wait a minute. The thing is that if they usually over here, it's always we're number one for hit and run. At least they'll be filmed. They'll have a sharp picture of their face, the car, the license plate. They know they will be caught. At least that's one
No, they
thing.
don't. You could leave the state.
It's just another way of trading your liberty for security. That's what this is. And this is what's happening with AI across the country too. They're implementing it into every government system right now under the name of Doge. And, do you really want the government to have more cameras on you? Like that?
Sarah
it
does.
Seems
Yes, I do. Well, in our state, we kill
terrible.
about 4.5 pedestrians for 100,000 people.
Sarah's
What do you
always
guys
having a
feel
mouse
like
in her
that?
pocket. Sarah is always saying we, so she's always saying we kill 4 million pedestrians and stuff like that.
Well, I mean,
You
in
should
New
stop.
the
Mexico,
police
that's
kill
what's bad.
27 dogs a day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And most of them, have cameras and they still do it.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that is a difference from reckless driving behavior. But anyways, the whole point is that here he is telling me, and then he told me I was just baffled by the ignorance of. He said we had that election, we voted on the speeding cameras, and I said no, the speeding cameras was never on the ballot. They only voted for red light cameras. That's why we got the speeding cameras back. He was close, and he said, well, only 5,000 people voted on that election. And says, no, we had 17,000 people for the cameras and 20,000 against it. And I told him, did you know that was a non-binding election? And here's this person get hit. They have no idea what we voted on, when we voted on it 15 years ago, and why we got the speeding bans, but he doesn't like it. But, I mean, most people that I run into, and they're just clueless, but that shows why this person got struck by a car. And I said, do you call what are you going to do about it? You could sue the city for getting rid of the red light cameras. What are you going to do? But he's like, lucky go me. What could I do about it? I don't really care. And so there it is.
Why would you sue the city for getting rid of the red light camera? The red light camera
You'd
being there
lose.
doesn't stop you from getting hit by a car.
You would lose. I don't think that he'd win that. But Sarah, I feel like this is a really sad story. It sucks because as you tell the story, it was this guy's turn to walk. He was on Walker, right? And he
was walking. He had that green light. This is walk zone. So
yeah, it's not usually green in New Hampshire. Maybe it's green there.
Okay, the cars have the green light, but it's one of those where they don't have a separate arrow for the yellow. You turn the red. You turn the left when there's a break in the car.
Okay, I get it.
That's the only thing that she was looking for is a break in the car, and just slammed on the gas to get out of the traffic, and just ran into and it just thrown it out on the street.
Honestly, maybe it's different in New Mexico. This is the real problem. This intersection you're describing was allowing in a pedestrian to walk while also telling somebody they can turn left if they yield to pedestrians and to the oncoming traffic. Honestly, if I designed that, I wouldn't have both those things at once.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell them, like, walkers don't walk whenever this person could possibly turn in here. Right. That seems like a problem.
Reminds me of the story of the lady who called into a radio one time to talk about how they shouldn't have deer crossings in the middle of a highway. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So deer don't cross there.
Like, why don't they move them somewhere safer for them to cross?
Well, you know what they're trying to do? They're trying to make animal overpass at the rural areas, so that's where they migrate back and forth, and they're doing like a general slope under or over it. So that's a migration path because a bunch of the deer get killed, and they don't know to look for both ways or anything like that.
It's not because the deers get killed. It's because people die and trucks can be totaled.
Right.
It's not because the deers get killed. Well, maybe to the leftists, it is. I mean, the environmentalists, it's that the deers get killed.
These deer should go to the town meetings, and then they would know, and they wouldn't get hit by cars.
Or they should just move that sign. Okay, thank you for the call, Sarah. Very interesting that you said there's something about like AI getting used under the name of Doge, Ben. I hadn't heard of this, and it's really, honestly, the Doge thing does kind of scare me. Ever since they kicked out Ramaswamy, I was like, I think that's a bad sign.
Yeah, so essentially, like, Vivek left Doge because it went from cutting the fat of bureaucracy and running. They're saying, you know, they are removing unelected bureaucrats. That's happening. However, Vivek said in a recent interview that they're essentially it took a more technological stance, which everything's going to be becoming more efficient and integrating certain AIs with government programs. So, you know, to me, this is just a way. What sucks is that Elon Musk is he's doing some good stuff on one hand, but what he's doing on the other hand is just another version of cronyism, because a lot of this AI is owned by him or controlled by him, and data is what runs the world. So if he is collecting any of that data or has any access to that data, which I believe he does. You know, I believe that they gave him access to people's like social security numbers and all kinds of stuff.
They came out and said that they don't have access to your personal information and that they can't change anything. It's all read only. So, I mean, who knows if they're telling the truth.
I'm optimistic though, too. So like I want good things to happen, but also when I see cronyism and like, you know, he makes like $8 million a day from the U.S. government, not including a lot of his other contracts that he has going on. You know, implementing and tying in your AI system into the government to make it more efficient, it's literally creating, you know, just a new surveillance state on a lot of us, because this is going to make it so that the government is well, one, they want to put regulations on AI. Even Elon wants to put regulations on AI, but to me, while AI is still decentralized, we should be, I don't know, I think we should be fighting back against it a little bit, but I just don't know how you can fight back against AI. Like I'm not there. So.
Yeah, it does creep me out. I didn't like AI from the beginning, and I really was annoyed and angry about the whole Lambda thing. That was Google's AI that they said came to like actual life. I was angry that people started saying like, hey, we need to give this thing human rights because it says it's sentient. You can't just take its word for it. I think people shouldn't be tampering with creating something that could potentially become sentient, but they're going to. So like you say, it's like, what do you do about it? 603-283-6160. It's Free Talk Live. You can check out punksforliberty.org if you want to see more of Ben. Thanks.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to is probably so swamped with applicants that he or she is tough to reach. So call early in the day, before 8 a.m., before the palace guards arrive. You'll need your prospect's direct number, and here's a sneaky way to get it. Suppose the company's main number is 555-5000. You should call 555-5012. When someone says, "Good morning, Pam Johnson," you should innocently say, "Oops, somebody here must have written this down wrong. I was calling for Tom Frederick. What's his direct number?" If the very next thing you hear isn't Pam giving you Tom's number, it may be, "Good morning, Tom Frederick." For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump's spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. From the summit site, Ollie Barrett reports.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal, with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer reiterating that the UK will put boots on the ground, he says, and planes in the air to help police any such peace deal, and he says that other countries are now working with him to decide what they could do in the event of such a scenario as well. He insists that the countries here are unified in their views when it comes to approaching Ukraine, but also needing to up their own defence capabilities as well. And Keir Starmer, with the summit concluding at Lancaster House in London behind me, insisting that Washington remains, he says, a reliable ally. The context, of course, the backdrop for this summit has been those difficult talks in Washington last week between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The idea is that the UK and other countries here can encourage Ukraine and the US to get back round a table and start talking again about a peace deal, about a minerals deal of the type that was supposed to be signed in Washington last week. The UK, France, Ukraine and a number of other countries are also going to work on a peace plan that they say can be presented to Donald Trump as a possible way forward out of this crisis. But despite the leaders being in agreement about a lot here in London today, there is also a lot that divides European countries about exactly how to move forward. But Keir Starmer hoping that he can become that bridge between European countries and the White House.
In the US, meanwhile, many Republican Party lawmakers are coming out in defense of Donald Trump following his remarkable televised dressing down of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. Here's Speaker of the House of Representatives Mike Johnson on NBC.
President Trump has brought back strength to the White House, but we need President Zelensky to do what is necessary. This war has drug on far too long. We've got to bring an end to it.
Democrats, though, are reacting with dismay. Senator Chris Murphy suggesting the shouting match is proof that the White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. The surprise flight to America taken on Thursday by Andrew and Tristan Tate, two social media espousers of aggressive masculinity who have been facing charges in Romania of rape and sex trafficking. President Trump at the White House claimed to know nothing of their departure from Bucharest and their arrival in Fort Lauderdale. But Matthew Jury, a lawyer representing 4 of Andrew Tate's alleged British victims, disagrees.
The Romanian government has acknowledged that the Trump administration raised the matter with the Romanian authorities last week. We know from sources that have been reported on in the Financial Times, which I think we can trust, have said that a serious pressure was leveraged against the Romanian authorities to return the Tate's passports. And lo and behold, here they are, travelling on a private jet from Romania to Fort Lauderdale in Florida.
And he said his clients are furious that justice against the Tate brothers may now be delayed, if not denied.
They are absolutely disgusted, dismayed, distraught, traumatized by the fact that the so-called leader of the free world has deemed it fit to intervene and interfere with the trial and the due process in respect of their alleged abuser.
The Tates are fervent supporters of President Trump and are dual US-UK citizens, so legally entitled to live in either country. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
A reminder of our top stories. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. Elsewhere, Israel's blocked the entry of all humanitarian aid into Gaza as it demands Hamas agrees to an American plan for a ceasefire extension. That's the latest feature story news. I'm Benji Haya in Washington.
If you're just tuning in, a horrific accident. Dozens are dead and hundreds more injured after the Coors Light party train crashed in Pratt, Kansas. The train was barreling through a field on its way to liven up a boring, overheated barbecue when something went wrong. Partiers were thrown hundreds of feet from the train as the frost-powered locomotive careened through bystanders at its normal speed of over 27,000 miles per hour. Rescue crews are struggling to get close to the crash. The Rocky Mountain frost radiating from the downed silver bullet is flash freezing survivors' bodies as they try to escape the wreckage, and the OJ's hit song Love Train is looping at deafening levels. No word yet on the cause of the accident, but investigators are focusing now on the fact that the train weighs 400 million tons and was not on rails. Coors Light has released the following statement, quote, Coors Light regrets any loss of life caused by the Coors Light party train's raw, frosty power. Please continue to enjoy Coors Light. We'll have more on this story as it develops.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And it's officially unofficial. We've been podcasting since podcasts began, but we're launching a new podcast anyway. Our new podcast is a 30 to 45-minute show releasing once a week, and you can find it at freetalkcast.com. It's brought to you by the same people who bring you Free Talk Live, and we'd love for you to check it out. The existing radio archive isn't going anywhere. This is just a new show designed from the start to be a podcast. So check it out at freetalkcast.com. And with you on the show tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And we have a little bit of things. We have a lot to talk about, actually. There's just like so much in the news.
All the time. All the time now.
Yeah.
It's like it's warp speed. I thought there was a lot to talk about before, but now it's just, I can't get show prep in the morning and then have it be like fresh by the time the show is on.
Yeah.
Because so much has happened.
And then on top of that, we're weekends only, so it's like way worse. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you want to know more about that, you can Google Donald Trump warp speed. I'm just kidding. But this story from rawstory.com, a reputable news source.
Richie's not here.
Yeah. A reputable news source. I've never heard of Raw Story in my life, but
it sounds dirty.
It does sound dirty. It says, interrupted by booze, GOP lawmaker, and I didn't think that, just for the record. But once you say it like that, I guess it does.
Yeah.
Interrupted by booze, GOP lawmaker confronted by angry crowd in Deep Red, Texas County. It says, Rep. Keith Self, a Republican from Texas, was met with chants of "do your job" at a town hall on Sunday.
Maybe he needs to do his job.
It says Self is just, that's such a crazy last name. I've never heard of anybody named Self.
I said to myself,
yeah.
Self. I say that a lot. It'd be great if my last name really was Self.
Yeah. It's like Turd earlier when he was like, I only have control over CJ. I was like, I know that
he's
that's
in my
name.
basement.
Yeah, but not everybody knows that that's your name because we only call you Turd. So that was a Self dead name, by the way. That I didn't dead name him, or I don't know if that counts as dead naming. If he does still go by it.
No,
Docs.
I don't think it would be. Yeah,
that was a Self docs. Maybe I should stop repeating it, but it was just so funny.
Repeating what, CJ?
Yeah. So Self is just the latest to receive such treatment of getting booed. coming the same day as Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas was called a coward as he departed the stage at a town hall in Kansas over the weekend where he was asked about how federal cuts are harming veterans.
J.D. Vance went to Sugarbush Ski Resort in Vermont, and they had like giant rally protests.
They booed him and stuff?
Yeah.
Whoa.
They rallied signs and stuff lined up, and
whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
And people are saying oh, we should boycott this place that hosted his vacation. They let him come here for vacation. Are you insane? He's just there on vacation. He's not even doing anything political.
I would say that is a lot different, and it's not just because it's oh, I like J.D. Vance. I really don't like him. I liked him more yesterday than I liked him before. And by yesterday, I mean the day before, because the day before was when that meeting was with Zelensky.
Mm-hmm.
So the listeners know what I'm talking about. But I think it is different to do something like that while somebody is just vacationing. And that's because that's such a big role. But at the same time, I don't think that you shouldn't be able to go up to J.D. Vance and say, hey, I'm Dave Ridley, I'm filming. What are you going to do to cut down tax? The stuff that Dave Ridley asked someone,
I wonder if Ridley was there.
Oh, well, he's in Colorado right now.
Oh.
But yeah, that would be interesting. It'd probably be a really good video. But the thing was, even at the LPNH convention, I was one of the people saying, surely libertarians are not going to boo Trump. I don't think that's going to happen. And I would not have booed Trump. Mm-hmm. And apparently a bunch of them did.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's what I hear.
It's really hard for me because I don't like politicians, and I am all for pissing them off and showing that you don't respect them, because they operate on the idea that you respect them, just like the dollar just operates on the idea that you respect it as value.
They hold a monopoly on violence.
Yep. So it just feels like you're not going to let someone speak. Don't you care about speech?
No, they don't.
If somebody's just up there giving a speech, I don't care if they're saying something I disagree with. I'm probably not just going to boo over them.
I wonder if a lot of the boos came from the left-leaning libertarians.
They did.
Because okay, so that's that makes sense. It tracks because the left is anti-speech.
Yeah.
So
the annoying thing is they think that they can't be leftist and be libertarians. The one girl who's running for vice chair, she tweeted something today or yesterday, I don't know, that was it's so annoying that people consider me a leftist. Meanwhile, she's out there talking about how Zelensky is just defending himself. He's just defending himself. All that is you fell for a propaganda campaign. Mm-hmm. He's not defending himself or his country, because there's no way. You can't talk in terms of countries when you're talking in terms of self-defense.
Right.
If innocent people are dying, they are caught in the crossfires, it's no longer self-defense, period. If you're conscripting people, you're not defending yourself. You're putting somebody else in a position to be your slave to go die for you. That's not self-defense.
Right.
Anyways.
Just to be clear, my point earlier when I said I disagreed with you, I don't disagree that they put him in his place. I just disagree with the way that they did it.
We didn't really talk about it enough today on the show itself. So you didn't like the way that Trump and J.D. Vance talked to Zelensky?
I thought it looked ridiculous, and that you should be able to, dress him down while still remaining cool because you're supposed to be the leader of a country.
I like the idea that things are just not going decorum. Everything is... We care about how we look and stuff as much. And Stu did give some examples of times that other politicians have done that. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I like it because of basically back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show is I think people need to see that these people are just people. And people need to see that these people don't just deserve respect by fiat, mm-hmm. and that they're real humans.
The problem with that is when you are having a disagreement or an argument with somebody and you allow yourself to become heated and fly off the handle. And
I also just disagree. I didn't see that.
And become emotional. They were yelling at him and
I didn't think they were yelling, even though he went like, "You were raising your voice." I didn't think he was, honestly.
When I watched it, they looked extremely confrontational and aggressive.
I think they were mad because he was being aggressive himself, but it was more passive. It's like he's used to,
passive aggressive,
getting his way, so he had his arms crossed.
I don't have a problem that they were mad. I just think
like you can't really fault somebody if they're getting disrespected for just like kind of like even raising their voice a little, but I didn't feel like they did. But getting a little flustered, I don't think they flew off the handle,
I feel like the getting flustered part of it, when you allow yourself to get flustered in an argument, it takes your stance down, like it weakens you.
I agree, except that I don't think they did it. I really don't. Like, he was just saying, like, Trump was saying, you're in a bad position right now. And
it was more Vance Trump wasn't so aggressive. Vance was very aggressive.
Yeah, I think that he was going more aggressive, like telling him like how he felt about him more than Trump was telling him how he felt about him. And then at that point, the thing was, it's just like you're in a losing position if you're having a conversation with somebody who is acting the way Zelensky was.
Well, and Zelensky's in the losing position there. Like his whole trying to argue back, that wasn't the time or the place for it. And Vance was telling him.
Gross. He's like a little rat. I hate the way he talks.
Telling him that this is not the time or the place and you don't have the cards to make any demands here, like, is fine. But you don't need to say it in such an aggressive way. Like, you should be able to say this in a way and still be like calm about it.
One time I had a meeting with my roommate. My roommate was a girl who was absolutely disgusting, and I didn't know how dirty and nasty and badly raised she was until I moved in with her.
She was my roommate too. I had one of those.
And so the girl whose parents owned the house that we were renting came and did a mediation, and it was totally not fair. And it turned out I ended up completely. It's a whole story. I actually put it on TikTok, but I don't want to get into it.
I watched that.
I'm just gonna say that when we had the mediation, I was saying to the girl whose parents own the house, I was like, listen, I'm just going to say her name. I don't care. Kayla does not clean her cat's litter box. Like, she may scoop it sometimes, but it's never been cleaned. So it's like, if I go into the garage for any reason, it hits me in the face. And she just started saying, Kayla started like yelling, I do clean it. I take it outside and I clean it. And that was just a lie. And I was just saying, Kayla, no, you don't. And then she said that I yelled at her and ran away crying. It's just like, it's not fair that the person who feels like that they are the most like the one that is being bad and then gets their voice raised at is the one that's a victim 100% of the time.
I don't think he's a victim.
Yeah.
I just think they could have conducted themselves better.
It's just like sometimes somebody is being so bad that you raise your voice. I don't think that Trump or Vance raised his voice, but maybe he was being more aggressive. But I mean, I could listen to it again and maybe change my mind that he raised his voice. But I just think people who think like that Kayla was a victim, I don't understand it. Like, it's like I'm actually being like in Vance's mind, he's talking to somebody who's victimizing like the people of America and killing his own people and doesn't want to stop for vanity, it feels like. And in my mind, in the Kayla situation, is to make it like a analogy, it was like I was being harmed and I wanted it to stop by having to live in this house that was like this girl wasn't cleaning up after herself. So like I'm the original victim and they make themselves the victim. And I hate people like that make themselves the victim.
Yeah, me too.
For like just to deflect from the fact they're a victim. Or they're victimizing people is what I meant. But these two stories combined, but we're talking about the story where this guy was booed in Texas, but these stories combined because it's like, how should we look at and treat politicians, and especially like in the comparison to how we look at and treat any other person, and how would you consider like when is a good time to, for example, boo somebody? I don't think it's a good time to boo somebody when they're on vacation and.
No, I don't think so.
Or when they're giving a speech. I think that's the worst time, actually. I think literally when they're giving a speech is the worst time because it's like you should be able to hear a person out and then respond,
Yeah, I don't think I don't think anyone should be stopped from booing people whenever. Just walk around and boo them every time you see their face if you really want to.
Yeah.
It's fine. But like, how are you going to hear their side of things if you boo during the speech? And it's just kind of awful to boo somebody with their children on vacation.
That's another thing. It's like, it's not just him affected, but
right, his kids.
That doesn't mean that even if I saw a politician here not on business, they're still a public figure, and I would still do something like, oh, I see that politician, let me get my camera out and ask them a hard question. I don't care if they're like just taking a stroll and it's like, this is my
that's
leisure
reasonable.
time.
Like, ask them a question instead of just booing them.
Right, exactly. I think it's reasonable. And that's just because like of treating people like people, but at the same time, these are people who are criminals most of the time. Not sure about this Keith Self guy though. Keith Self might not be like a horrible criminal. I don't know. I mean,
we'll see.
They're
He's
all
apparently not doing his job.
Yeah, let's see what job he's not doing. He was booed outside of it doesn't say where yet, but he was booed in Texas in a small Republican town. He is a Republican. Outside of the town hall. There we go. With chance of do your job. And this is only the latest. And there was a man named Senator Roger Marshall, a Republican from Kansas, that was called a coward as he departed the stage at a town hall in Kansas over the weekend, where he was asked about how federal cuts are harming veterans. Democratic insider Aaron Fritchner posted a video from Self's town hall in Wiley, Texas. Never heard of it. There's like millions of towns there. Seems like.
Wiley sounds like a real Texas place.
Yeah, Wiley Coyote. So it says the video was posted from Self's town hall in Wiley, Texas over the weekend, adding another large angry crowd at a Republican town hall in a deep red district. I feel like they're trying to compare like apples to apples to make it like, look, the Republicans are eating themselves, but I don't know.
But they're not.
There is just like there's like always a propaganda spin with everything in any headline, you know, any caption in this instance. So it says part of Self's interaction was also posted publicly by the Tennessee Holler and shared by nonprofit newsroom Texas Signal. In North Texas, Congressman Keith Self is having a hard time selling Elon Musk's cuts and layoffs. What does he have to do with it? So that's what they're mad at him for?
Right.
So these are government workers booing him. Even worse.
Oh, okay. So they're government workers booing him because Elon Musk is getting rid of government workers and they think that this guy can do anything about it.
Wow. Yeah, you sound like you have it right, and that's silly.
That is silly.
So it says that
everyone's real mad at all these government workers are losing their jobs for not doing their jobs.
Yeah.
But nobody was mad when like the pipeline got shut down and like all those people lost their jobs, or like everybody got lost their jobs when, you know, COVID happened.
Oh,
or,
yeah.
You know, nobody cared about those.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just the government workers. Those are important though, because you got to create jobs for people to do, whether that's meaningless or not.
That is such a really, really, really good point, because people didn't care that people's dreams were crushed and businesses destroyed during COVID.
So many small businesses destroyed, and people were cheering it on. People were like, yay, they lost their jobs, haha.
And not only is it a problem that somebody would get hired by the government and then not do their job, a lot of time their job just should have never existed.
Right.
So why would we be sad that they lost their job?
Right, they're creating jobs for people. Oh, we created all these jobs, but the jobs are pointless, worthless jobs.
Yep.
That don't need to be there.
Yep, exactly. And in my experience, most civilian government workers, I legitimately do separate it from the military people every time I talk about it, because they're just different. The civilian government workers are so entitled. And I had people come up to me when I was working at a government federal, what's it called, a post, a military base. I guess it was a base. Anyways, and they would just say, like, I saw your tweets on, or not tweets, I saw your posts on Facebook, and, you know, without the government, I'd be out a job. And it's just like,
Okay.
you can't get a job. You're
Right.
a grown man.
Right.
You should be able to start a business. You should be, and in fact, the government's the thing stopping you from feeling like you are able to start a business, because they put all these roadblocks for people to start businesses, and they indoctrinated you.
I saw all these videos of government workers who were saying like, oh, I got in this government job and I'm supposed to be set for life here. And like, they're firing us and that's illegal. They're supposed to go through all of these different channels. And like, even if I'm doing my job wrong, I'm supposed to get like a warning and be able to like fix the problem before they fire me.
Wow.
And all of this stuff. Like,
I'm supposed to be set for life.
So entitled. I'm supposed to be special because I work for the government.
Wow.
I need you to just let me do everything I want and nothing that I don't want forever and pay me for it.
Wow. It's horrible.
It is horrible. And you are right. All like so many government workers, like civilian government workers that I meet are just rude and unhelpful, unpleasant people because they know that they can't get fired.
Yeah,
and they know that they're set for life now.
Yep. If you need something done quickly and the government worker is the only person standing in your way, it's not going to get done quickly.
Mm-mm.
And in fact, if you show them that you're like unsatisfied, they, I swear, slow down and they get mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're spiteful, horrible. And the thing is, it's just like we were discussing with Ben, the cops not having any responsibility to people. Like they shoot someone's dog, and then even if the person gets paid for their dog getting shot, well, it didn't come out of the cop's pocket. The cop didn't lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
They were they were irresponsible in that situation.
I urge people to watch videos of like you can find tons of different channels that do videos like this of people being arrested on like nothing, on mistaken charges or stuff like that, and like just watch how the cops act. Like they will. I watched one today of this guy who was outside of his house at like 3:00 in the morning, just walking around outside of his own house in his own car, like looking for something, and then like looking at his phone, walking around barefoot in the middle of the night. And the cops showed up and they said they're arresting him for attempted burglary.
Whoa.
And he's like, what is that even? And then so they told him, oh, we had reports that you were in cars. He's like, yeah, my cars. So then they told him that they were going to arrest him for loitering and like basically skulking around.
Oh
like
my
that's
gosh.
like that's
in front of his house.
In front of his house. In front of his house. He's like, I can't walk around in my own neighborhood. Like this is where I live. And so after they took him down, like, and bashed his head on the ground, obviously, because that's what they do is they check you and like bring you down. And on their body cams and stuff, they're talking about like, oh, well, we hope someone's car got broken into so we can charge him with something. And like, this wasn't something that we did wrong. And like, I really hope that we got those 21s is what they were calling it. And like, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
It is.
And they will arrest you and like throw everything they possibly can at you and then hope something sticks that way so they can't get in trouble for, a false arrest.
Yeah. And the thing is, they don't even get in that much trouble.
Yeah. Like barely any trouble.
That's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the guy that got like pinned to the ground in Phoenix on like the hottest day of the year.
Yeah. And he got like 3rd-degree burns or something.
Yeah. He got 3rd-degree burns.
Yep. There was just like another one I watched, this story that was going around about this autistic guy who was arrested. They were supposed to do a welfare check. It was a year later. They went and did the welfare check for no reason.
Whoa.
Yep.
Oh, that just hit me.
Yeah. A year later. So they show up and they arrest this guy and they put him in a cell and he's like bashing his head off the walls because he has like severe autism and he gives himself brain damage and dies while in their custody. And they didn't do anything about it. They were just like calling him names and like, it was like 10 hours or something that they just left him in there and wouldn't let him contact anybody.
It's horrible to be an autistic person and interact with the cops.
It's horrible like I was saying anyone and interact with the cops.
But I just mean like the type of autistic person that genuinely like maybe they have bad motor control and stuff like that. They get victimized by the cops a lot because they seem crazy to the cops who aren't trained to deal with them.
I would never call a wellness check on anyone unless I thought they were legitimately dead and they couldn't get shot.
I know, and it's really annoying because there's been times where I've thought to myself, like, what would be the solution to this? Like, if I called to say, hey, like, I saw this old lady walking with her, wheelchair, like, it seemed like she was going to get stuck in, like, pits in the grass, and, like, she was going towards the road, and I thought to myself, like, I just have to, like, forget about that, because, like, it'd be worse if I called the cops, and I don't know her family or her. I don't even know what happened, you know? More Free Talk Live coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Free Talk Live.
Is everything that you've spoken of about the government tonight has been in a negative connotation.
What is there to like about the federal government?
Tell me what's great about the United States federal government.
Protection. They protect us.
They've got a military that's 9 times the next closest military. That's a protection I'm forced to pay for.
The terrorists will tell you the reason why they're engaging in terrorist activities, if they are inside the United States, is because of what the U.S. government's military is doing. They're putting us in greater danger through their actions, sir.
When is the last time that you've watched someone else stab someone blatantly or blown themselves up?
That has nothing to do with the federal government.
An armed populace is what keeps a particular area safe, not soldiers.
Yeah, right.
Soldiers are all over the place in Venezuela.
Yeah. Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump's spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. From the summit site, Ollie Barrett reports.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal, with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer reiterating that the UK will put boots on the ground, he says, and planes in the air to help police any such peace deal, and he says that other countries are now working with him to decide what they could do in the event of such a scenario as well. He insists that the countries here are unified in their views when it comes to approaching Ukraine, but also needing to up their own defence capabilities as well. And Keir Starmer, with the summit concluding at Lancaster House in London behind me, insisting that Washington remains, he says, a reliable ally. The context, of course, the backdrop for this summit has been those difficult talks in Washington last week between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The idea is that the UK and other countries here can encourage Ukraine and the US to get back round a table and start talking again about a peace deal, about a minerals deal of the type that was supposed to be signed in Washington last week. The UK, France, Ukraine and a number of other countries are also going to work on a peace plan that they say can be presented to Donald Trump as a possible way forward out of this crisis. But despite the leaders being in agreement about a lot here in London today, there is also a lot that divides European countries about exactly how to move forward. But Keir Starmer hoping that he can become that bridge between European countries and the White House.
In the US, meanwhile, many Republican Party lawmakers are coming out in defense of Donald Trump following his remarkable televised dressing down of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday. Here's Speaker of the House of Representatives Mike Johnson on NBC.
President Trump has brought back strength to the White House, but we need President Zelensky to do what is necessary. This war has drug on far too long. We've got to bring an end to it.
Democrats, though, are reacting with dismay. Senator Chris Murphy suggesting the shouting match is proof that the White House has become an arm of the Kremlin. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. And I'd like to thank Bradley for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Bradley went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Thanks to Bradley and everyone who supports us. And again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
And Lori.
And we already have a caller on the line, so let's go into talking to our caller, David in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. David, what's on your mind?
Who's that guy with the drinking problem?
He did have a drinking problem, didn't he?
How do you know what I'm talking about, Bonnie?
Yeah, I do.
You know what I'm talking
I do. Because it was
then. What do I?
Because
I believe you. I'm just messing with you.
Oh, yeah. We were laughing about it. He said it was funny to him too. So I felt bad laughing, but okay. The listeners that don't know what I'm talking about, Ben, that was on the show at the beginning of the first 2 hours, he went to take a drink of his drink, but he like coughed. And it flew all over his face, like comically, like what happened in a cartoon. And like he just continued talking, but he was like smiling, and I was like smiling but trying not to laugh, or like laughing but trying not to laugh. And it's just like an airplane, that guy that had a drinking problem. It's funny.
It was good. I just cracked up again. I'm not even watching it right now. I just cracked up again thinking about it.
I thought you were talking about the guy that called.
Oh,
that you said,
yeah.
Bonnie said, I think that guy was drunk.
Oh, yeah, that guy seemed drunk.
Yeah, I didn't quite pick up on drunk. Just seemed not angry drunk, just angry.
Oh, you mean the original caller, not Ben, but the caller that called in?
Yeah, the guy you dumped because he used a word that you believe you should be able to use.
Yeah, well, not on the radio.
Not on the radio.
Well, I believe you should, but I'm not the one that's gonna find the stations if we do it anyway. Darn.
So
you can say that.
What? Can do what?
You can say darn.
Or dang it. Dagnabbit.
Dagnabbit.
I didn't control myself. So have you solved the world's problems? Or am I too late? Are there still problems to solve?
No, I think you should move to New Hampshire. Is that what you're asking?
Man, how did we? Well, yes, no, maybe, yeah. I mean, yeah, but how did you make that leap? That's interesting psychologically. How did you?
Because Turd said that Because Turd said that he left because we didn't solve all the problems in New Hampshire immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you see, so that's interesting because I think the difference is I'm not moving there to solve problems.
That's such a
David's coming to be a problem.
I moved here to stop one of my problems, which was the way that the government was reacting in San Antonio, but I never expected all my problems would instantly be solved.
Right. But I'm in even a better position because I have no expectation of any of my problems being solved, or very few of them. So that's probably a major difference because apparently CJ, is he 5 or 7?
Wait, what?
It's a Jeep.
Oh.
You're too young, and you didn't live in the mountain state. So is he? Now I lost my train of thought, Brownie. What was I going to say? And I'm not drunk.
That you're in a better position than him because you came with no expectations.
Yeah, because he moved there with expectations. I'm not moving there with any expectations.
Yeah, I think it's a self-responsibility thing as well. It's like if you aren't having the ability to make friends here, maybe you should try harder because there's meetups all the time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like I meant Dave, or sorry, not David. I meant Turd.
TJ, 7.
You keep doxing him.
I don't go to meetups here, and I've made friends.
Yeah, but I just mean if you're like, wow, I haven't made any friends. Like there's things to do. You know, there's something you can do to change that.
Is that why he left? Because he didn't make any friends?
I guess I assume that.
Disillusionment is what I'd pick up.
Yeah.
Is that right, Trevor?
It's also like maybe self-responsibility thing in that aspect too, because did you not have Google to be able to Google what it's like to live in New Hampshire and see that it's not in Kapistan?
Why Pennsylvania, though?
Are you talking to me or are you talking to CJ?
Oh, Turd. I was talking like to Turd without him being here, basically. And yeah, I guess he's just from Pennsylvania or from the area.
Okay.
And so that's why he lives there, and he just really likes the town he lives in. He says it's like cushy.
It's where all the teenage
because there's
girls
all
go to
these
the
hot-
fair or carnival or whatever it is.
Because there's all these hot 16-year-olds. That's
Yeah.
what he loves about it.
I guess
Yeah.
so. I guess that's true of Pennsylvania, allegedly.
What's not to love about hot 16-year-olds, Bonnie? You got a problem with that?
No, I didn't say I have a problem with that. I just said I guess that that's true, that is the best place to live to see hot 16-year-olds, not anywhere else in the entire country, I guess.
Are you trying to tell me I'm moving to the wrong place?
Oh, well, probably if you want to see
Hot
hotties.
16-year-olds.
Well, just hot anyone, probably not New Hampshire. It's not known for that.
Hey, I don't know. Well, I don't know about that. I was watching. Remember, I told you I was watching the what do you call them things? Anyway, the camera on the street, and I think it was in Portsmouth, and there was decent looking women that were walking by.
That would be a great place to see attractive people as far as like New Hampshire goes.
Move
Why-
to the
why is
beach.
that?
Move to Hampton.
It's, by the beach, and it's a city, and you're going to find people from a lot more all over. But if you live in like the middle, like the armpit of New Hampshire, like I do, where it takes an hour to get anywhere, and I guess it's not really a destination in and of itself.
And it's liberal.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. That's probably a huge reason I'm always like shocked when I see someone pretty. I saw a girl walk by me today that was really pretty, and I was like, she's like really pretty, and I was just like, I'm just in shock because that doesn't happen that often at Hannaford and Keaton. It just doesn't. So I guess if you want to see hot 16-year-olds, don't move here. You saw what Ian got.
Just move to Hampton.
Wait a minute. Non sequitur. You lost me again. I must be getting old or slow or what. I saw what Ian got. Are you talking about yourself? What are you talking about, Bonnie? I don't get it.
I was not 16 when I met Ian.
Right. I'm lost. Start over.
So I wasn't talking about myself, but I don't think I want to spell it out.
You were talking about yourself?
I was not talking about myself.
Well, I didn't think so, but you made it sound that way. So what did Ian get that I can't figure out?
I don't think we should spell it out, or that I should talk about it.
Some other non-Bonnie.
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about a previous paramour of Ian? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's such an old man term. I've heard old people only use the word
paramour.
It's
a nice word.
Yeah, old
is nice.
like that. I mean, really, really old. I remember this band like back in the 1930s called Paramore.
Yeah, that's the only reason I knew the word until recently.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's because what are you now, 17?
Yeah, I'm 17 now.
That's what I thought. So, now I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, we were solving the world's problems. So I know that the show is almost over, and so you've solved almost all of them and didn't leave any for me, but are there any left that I can help with?
Skeeter.
Oh, yeah.
Solve Skeeter.
Skeeter. Yeah, I was thinking something about Skeeter. Skeeter, what was I thinking about you earlier? I was reading his chat on your YouTube, and there was something that caught my attention, and what?
Anger.
Was he angry because I hung up on him?
Oh, I know what it was. No, well, there's always that, yeah. But no, in particular today, Skeeter, why? And you have said this before, Skeeter. Why does privacy not matter? That's BS, Skeeter.
Yeah.
And I should really get him riled up because he can't call back in again and take. I suppose I could fight him. I could fight him live on YouTube chat while we're talking.
He says privacy is bad because then you can steal and do bad things in private.
Oh, I didn't even realize he answered. I felt like he just
said that like a million times before. That's why privacy is bad, is because you can get away with bad things because you have privacy. So nobody should have any privacy, so that way all of the best things can happen because
you can obviously,
evolution or something, I guess it would be his answer there.
You can obviously get away with bad things in public too, like that person who ran over somebody when they weren't supposed to run them over and then just drove away.
On camera?
Well, at least in public, you know.
I don't think bad things on camera all the time.
Yep, that's true.
Like cops.
The guy who shot the healthcare executive guy on camera.
Yep.
You can. I don't know. I think why do you think it's BS, David? Why do you think privacy is important?
Well, because I think what I take objection to is Skeeter seems to be arguing as an all or nothing thing. He doesn't nowhere in his argument about privacy being a bad thing and that you don't have it, you shouldn't have it, you shouldn't expect it, whatever. it's all or nothing instead of inappropriate degrees.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, should we not have privacy to go to the bathroom? Obviously not, but like if it's something like...
Hey, Bonnie, go upstairs and yank your underwear drawer out of your chest of drawers and bring it down and put it on camera.
No.
Why not?
Because people deserve privacy. It's part of human dignity. Like, if we didn't deserve privacy, we wouldn't be wearing clothes at all.
Well, who says we are?
Well, maybe you're not.
David's probably not.
David's probably not, I guess.
Well, why would I need to be? It's after dark. I'm in my home. It's several hours past my bedtime. Now why would I be closed?
It's just him and the rats.
It's just him and the rats and the Roadrunner.
The Roadrunner. I have a new bird friend and I have a new mouse friend until I kill him.
I just had to do that.
Huh?
I just had to do that. Yeah, I came out into the kitchen the other day and there was a mouse on my stove, and I lost my mind, and I was like, "Go get traps!"
Yeah,
immediately. It's dead now.
Yeah, I hate that because I would hate to have to do it, but I understand why it has to get done.
There was 3 of them in the end.
Oh my goodness, that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they travel in packs. So I was laying on my bed, Bonnie. Laying on my bed, and I hear this, and so I turn my head, and up come these little mouse ears, and followed by mouse eyes, and then a mouse nose, and he's just staring right at me.
And that's when I'd pass out. With a mouse coming into my bed, staring at me. Sounds cute, but also I would just think it's biting my face, and then I would die.
No, they're scared of you.
This one's not scared of David. I think David has
he's Snow White.
Yeah, he has some kind of power, and animals like him.
I think you're onto something, but I don't think it's just me. I think it's anybody who doesn't think of themselves as I'm human and they're not. If you just think of I am and so are they, and you just treat them like you would another person, it doesn't mean you let them run all over you.
Yeah, that's why I killed him. I treat him like any other person. Right. Some person breaks into my house and sits on my stove, they're dead too.
But if you think about it, people don't relate to animals as if they're another being. It's like me person, and look at that animal. And they never stop to think that, actually you're both beings, and you have more in common than you think. And if you just relate to them like that, they pick up on that, and then you have a Snow White moment.
Jay Noon said that when he sees bees, he just says out loud, like, I come to you in peace, brother, to the bees.
Right, yeah.
To try not to get stung. Throughout the day, I tried to think of Coconut as, I try to just think about, like, what's going on in his head and treat him like I would treat another person and not let him be, like, sitting around bored, etc. But at the same time, I'm realistic enough to know that I can't treat him exactly like I'd treat just a guest in my house, or else he'll start being BAD. And also, sorry, I just spelled that out loud.
You didn't want him to hear it?
Yeah, I didn't want him to hear it. I forgot that I'm on the radio, I guess. But he'll start doing bad things if I don't treat him in a certain way. And the other thing is I am understanding enough to know that he is different than me in this one specific way, in that when I first had him, for the first 4 years I had him, before I met Ian, I did treat him way too much like a friend, and he was a lot more bad, and he was a lot less happy, and he was just a lot more of a different dog. And then when I met Ian, he introduced me to the no free lunch training method, and you just basically put them in their place, and dogs actually love that. They want to know that you're the pack leader, or else I think that's why he has why he has just such bad anxiety.
Children too.
Yeah.
People think that you should be your kid's friend, but that's not actually what you're there to do. Like, you should be kind to your child and love them and all of that stuff, but they're not your equal in terms of the power dynamic, and you shouldn't treat them as such because they need structure and discipline in order to become human adults.
Yeah. So, David, what do you have to say about that with your rats?
With the rats, or
you're going to give your rats anxiety? Moral of the story.
How am I going to give my rats anxiety? Because you're thinking that I treat them in a certain way, and you don't. And
I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Okay. That was a joke. I was just saying there was no real moral to the story. we're just talking about how people treat animals. I don't like people that treat animals, especially dogs, in my opinion, like they're just like, there's no possible way they could understand what I'm saying. There's no possible way they have like actual feelings because they're not human. I really do hate that, because it's like, you just have to be kind of like uneducated on the situation as it is to think that an animal can't ever understand what you're saying, or that it can't have any feelings about what you're doing to it or saying to it. Those people are definitely out there, and they really annoy me. And when it's a dog, it's just a bigger red flag to me, because dogs are so much more social than like a mouse. And apparently mice are social too, because they go and hang out with David in bed.
Mice are extremely social. Mice are more social than dogs.
Well, with humans?
Yeah, like I've had pet rats before.
I don't think so. I don't think they are, because they haven't developed like to become friends with them like that, sleep in their beds and stuff.
They would.
I mean, they might sleep in your bed and
intelligent.
stuff, but I don't think they're more social than dogs. Dogs are evolved to be
subservient to humans. Dogs are they crave to be subservient. They want you to be the master, and rats are more like social. They just want to like hang out and have snacks with you.
Mice are evolved to be not deceptive. What's the word I'm looking for?
Sneaky?
Yes, sneaky.
Maybe we're
know.
using the word social wrong, because there are plenty of dogs that just want to hang out. There are lap dogs. There are dogs
Devious. That's what I'm looking for. Devious. Mice are devious. They know that they're stealing your food, and and then
that reminds me of cats too.
What?
That reminds me of cats too. They're like, I know you don't want me to pee on this, and I'm going to pee on that specifically.
Yeah, I heard that. And then your dog did the same thing?
Yeah, that creeped me out, because it was the same organite crystal. It's not really what it is, but it just made me think.
Rodents are smart, and they'll like troll intentionally. Like I had a dog at the time too, and one of my rats, she didn't like them. She was scared of the rats. And one of the rats would like sneak up behind her and like touch her.
There's a cat that does that to Coconut.
On purpose to like freak her out.
There's a cat that does that to Coconut. That when we take walks, it'll start walking with us, and then it'll like dive bomb Coconut like just with its side, and Coconut gets really annoyed and like bites towards him or her. It's a girl. Not like he's actually gonna bite, but it's funny. So this whole conversation is just to say that I agree with you, David, that it's annoying when people act like, oh, like it's just a dog, it's just a whatever, and it couldn't possibly understand me.
Right, but let's go to the next level. See, I was not even referring to domestic animals. I was referring to wild animals, and I forgot to exclude the domestic ones. But what you're saying is accurate. But I was more thinking of non-domesticated animals that people just kind of write off as, like there's no way I can communicate with that. But I don't think it's true.
Are you a vegan?
Well, sometimes I've been vegan for months at a time, but not by choice, not because I was saying I'm a vegan and I'm not going to eat meat or eggs or whatever.
Not like a philosophical vegan.
No, but I don't mindlessly kill and eat animals. It's like if I'm having a steak, it's because I want to have a steak or chicken or seafood or whatever. I don't just automatically make sure that somebody gets killed so I can eat.
No,
without thinking about it.
I don't think anyone does that
in America today.
No.
Probably not.
No, but like, how do you hold both beliefs that animals are these special beings that you can communicate with, and also eat them?
Because these cows are so damn annoying. They break in my yard and break stuff, so it's my revenge, dude.
Oh. I think that you can hold both views, because I think that it's totally possible to communicate with them, but you also have to accept their differences. Like a lot of animals just don't even have the same parts of the brain. I don't remember which ones, but certain animals don't even have the highest, like the neocortex. And that is never going to be able to be communicated with at the same level as a human with a fully developed neocortex, like highest thinking capacity, like philosophy and discovering human natural rights. Like you can't just have a lizard that will not kill ants or whatever they eat because they respect that ant's right.
Right.
That's probably not going to happen.
Probably not.
But the thing is, I'm also open to it happening in the future.
So that's why animals don't declare and go to war then, because they don't have that part of their brain.
Yep. So.
Animals go to war.
Oh wait, yeah, they do. I just was thinking of it differently, but
monkeys, tribes of monkeys go to war with each other.
Yeah, they do. Tribes of monkeys, they do.
Well, wait a minute though. Monkeys are what?
Primates, which are still animals. We are animals.
And humans are what? Wait
also
a minute.
Animals.
So humans are.
I bet other
also primates and also animals.
I bet other animals go to war. Oh, piranhas. That's not a primate or a mammal.
Piranhas go to war?
Well, they attack in groups. Oh wait, I guess going to war in this context is like a piranha group versus a piranha group.
Ants go to war.
You mean like you mean like Mexicans?
What? Why is that like Mexicans?
Well, you said they attack in groups.
Do they? I don't know. Doesn't every race of humans attack in groups? Kind of like everybody's at war all the time.
Some more than others. Some more than others.
Ants go to war.
Oh wow. Like tribe versus another ant tribe?
Like ants versus other ants that are not within their own colony.
Oh, wow.
Will go to war with each other.
If murder hornets don't go to war, then I'd be surprised.
Bees and hornets go to war against each other.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a war.
They're more like they're more like assassins as opposed to organized group warfare.
No, because like if a hornet comes into a bee's or a wasp comes into a bee's nest, the bees will like surround it, and then they vibrate their bodies all together in a group so fast they raise the internal temperature of the ball that they're surrounding, and they kill the hornet that way.
Holy crap, that's insane!
Cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
I could do that.
Yeah, me too. I mean, maybe you can. You just need a bunch of people to vibrate with.
And a bunch that would be agreeable to be in the center and probably self-destruct.
Yeah, right.
The hippies used to do that, didn't they?
Vibrate each other?
I
think
know.
Lots of people do still.
Well, kind of. I'm not suggesting any OnlyFans, type girl-on-girl kind of thing or anything like that. I'm just talking about hippies getting together in groups and vibrating, getting on the same wavelength.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like mental vibes.
Why? What did you think I meant?
Cuddle puddles. I think you know what she thought you meant, but also, I guess
I wanted to hear you guys say it.
I guess the hippies did get together to get to a certain vibration to destroy civilization. So you're right.
There you go.
Society. Maybe the original hippies weren't that bad, but I don't really like the type of hippies you'd run into at like a campground right now. Yeah, it's not really my thing.
That's because
there's
most of them are cosplayers.
Yeah, literally, most of them are literally cosplayers, and too many of them want to go back to nature in a way that's just like way too far. Way too far. Like not wearing shoes ever.
Right, and it's not like real hippiedom. It's like real superficial hippie stuff because they're cosplaying.
Like what?
Like not wearing their shoes and like wearing tie-dye and stuff, but then they don't hold any actual values like being good people. that.
So you're saying I need to start wearing shoes?
I think you're kind of a real hippie, David.
Yeah, I think David might be a real hippie.
I don't see why not. freetalklive.com for more. Thanks for listening. It's been a good show tonight, and you can go to punksforliberty.org. You can go to freetalklive.com for more Free Talk Live. Thank you for listening, and peace.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Coming up next after the news, Hour 1 of the latest episode of Free Talk Live here at listen.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Benji Haya. The UK's Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has unveiled a plan to help guarantee peace in Ukraine following a summit with European leaders in London. It includes a missile deal and cooperation with allies, but he's still calling for support from the United States, even after US President Donald Trump's spat in the Oval Office with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. From the summit site, Ollie Barrett reports.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal, with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer